Wilson Field, home of Chapman's final game of the 2016 campaign. It is senior day, 13 seniors being honored, and it is a great day for some football between the Chapman Panthers and Occidental Tigers. Michael Hofling in the booth with Tim Wolf. And Tim, this season hasn't gone exactly according to plan for Chapman. Only 3-3 in SCIAC play this year, but they do face an Occidental Tigers team that is 7th in SCIAC with only one win in conference. What do they need to do today?
That's right. In order to finish above 500 this year and finish on a high note, the Chapman Panthers have got to get rolling on offense right off the bat by running the ball effectively. Joe Muty yet to score a touchdown this season, and this Occidental defense is allowing over 300 rushing yards per game. The Panthers need to get him rolling right off the bat in order to keep their offense effective today. Next up, they have to be able to protect Ricky Bautista. He was sacked 6 times last week, and they need to keep him on his feet in order to keep those chains moving down the field and score some points against this juggernaut Occidental offense. The offensive line can get back off on track if they can keep Bautista on his feet. Third of all, they need to go after the quarterback on the Occidental side of the ball. Chapman Panthers have a great defense. They're allowing a very low average points per game this year, and the Occidental Tigers have an incredible offense. Quarterback Brian Scott is definitely one of the top QBs in the conference, and they need to make him uncomfortable right off the bat.
Yeah, a lot of great players on this Occidental Tigers offense, but some good players on Chapman's offense as well. First off, why don't we take a look at the running backs, Max Gruber and Joe Muty.
Right on. Max Gruber on the Occidental side, 574 rushing yards this year, just a little bit more than Joe Muty. The really big stat to look at here, though, is Max Gruber has 4 rushing touchdowns and Joe Muty has 0. The Panthers are a running offense, but their number one back has yet to score a touchdown. They've got to get him rolling right off the bat.
That could be something to look forward to in this game. They're on the ground, but when it comes to aerial attacks, let's take a look at the players, Isaiah Amici and Jacob Isabel.
That's right. Isaiah Amici, Occidental's one of their top guys. He has 290 receiving yards this year, and Jacob Isabel on the Panthers side has 604. Both of these guys have touchdowns this year. Amici has 2, Isabel has 6. They're both important to their teams, and in order for their offenses to be effective today, they need to use them.
And lastly, why don't we take a look at the people who are throwing the ball to these great targets.
Right on. The 2 quarterbacks for Chapman and Occidental. Brian Scott on the Occidental side, one of the top quarterbacks in the conference. 2,629 passing yards, nearly double what Ricky Bautista has. But Ricky Bautista is in a running offense. As you can see, he's got some rushing yards there, but Brian Scott can get after it as well. So let's keep an eye on that.
Absolutely, that's 69.2 completion percentage, first in SCIAC. So those are some pretty sweet offensive players, but they are not as sweet as the 3rd member of our crew, Allison Arthur, who has more on this game. Allison?
Thanks, guys. Today is the last home game for Chapman football this season, which means it's senior day. The seniors will be honored before taking Wilson Field for the last time. Like you guys said, it's really hot down here, but still, nonetheless, a great day for some football. This should be a really interesting game to follow. Occidental has the 2nd best offense in the league behind Redlands. They've been averaging 38 points per game and have scored at least 4 touchdowns in every single game this season. But in order for their offense to succeed, their defense will have to step it up. Per game, they have allowed an average of 49 points while also giving up 325 rushing yards. However, this could lead some space open for Chapman running back Joe Muty to score his first touchdown of the season, which would be helpful for Chapman's offense, considering they have scored the 2nd least amount of points in the SCIAC Conference this season. But we'll just have to see how this one plays out today. Back to you guys.
Well, it's a classic battle of a juggernaut offense versus a brick wall defense as we get ready for the kickoff. A little squibber up the middle, and it's going to be Ethan Weinstein who returns this one. Gets it up to about the 28 before getting taken down by a couple of Occidental Tigers. Ethan Weinstein and Jacob Isabel, the dual team of returners for Chapman. They are very, very dangerous, each one of them with a touchdown in their career on returns. We're going to take a look at this Chapman offense led by Ricky Batista, number 4, the quarterback. Earlier on in the year, there was a little bit of a quarterback battle between him and Mac Vale, but Batista really stepped it up in a couple of games, broke some huge runs against Whittier and other teams, and he has played spectacular as the team starter. A little swing pass out to the right side. It's Joe Muty. Joe Muty gets brought down eventually on the play. It's going to be 2nd and about 5. On the tackle there was Elijah Duran, the senior defensive back out of Coltmont, Pennsylvania. Gone a long way to play some football. Batista, a little spacing pass out to the middle, and it's Isabel who breaks a tackle and takes it out to the 40, the 30, the 20, the 10. A great block from Weinstein, and he runs in for the score. So a very early 6-0 lead for Chapman, just 45 seconds into the contest.
Yeah, very obvious that Chapman wants to take advantage of that Occidental defense, coming out with aggressive play calling, throwing the ball twice off the bat, and giving it to their best receiver, Jacob Isabel, for that touchdown right there. As you can see here, he breaks the tackle, and then it's off to the races. Weinstein with a key block downfield to help him get into the end zone.
Yeah, Cordell Harris, who's one of the greatest receivers on this team, he was the one getting blocked by Weinstein, but Weinstein just getting in front of him too hard as the extra point is good. Lucas Alfonso, so good, 92% on extra points. But geez, we talked about earlier in our pregame that Chapman needs to run the ball effectively, 2 passing plays, and hey, one of them for 60-plus yards in the touchdown.
That's right. Coach Owens might have wanted to change it up a little bit. Occidental knows their running defense isn't that great, so they're going to come out expecting the run, and instead Owens hits them with 2 passes right off the bat.
Well, their defense might not be the best, but their offense is arguably the best in conference. We're going to see them for the first time. And Chapman, they're going to have their work cut out for them. Some great offensive players, especially Brian Scott. Brian Scott's touchdown to interception ratio is 22-4. And before last week, he only had 1 interception. So look for him to be a key player and maybe some highlight level plays. He is spectacular.
It's definitely going to be interesting to watch that Chapman defense against that quarterback.
Back to return for the Tigers is Elijah Duran and Chris Rom-Toribio. It's going to be Cordell Harris who takes the kickoff and doesn't even get to the 20, but there is a flag on the play. We'll wait to see what the penalty is.
Cordell Harris actually had a kickoff return touchdown last week, so Chapman's definitely going to have to watch on their kickoff coverage, be very careful, stay in their lanes, and make sure that he does not break outside.
Well, we see here the first penalty of the game, a face mask against Chapman, something they did not want to do. They need to hold this 7-0 lead, show Occidental that they cannot run all over them on this field. And that's just not what you want to see. Undisciplined mistakes will give them free yards and give you a much worse chance of winning this game. Brian Scott lined up in the pistol formation. His running back behind him. 3 receivers to his right and 1 to his left. A play-action play here. Swings out to Cordell Harris, who gets tackled. A nice tackle by Devin Kelly.
Cordell Harris, SCIAC Player of the Week last week. They definitely want to get him involved right at the beginning.
Yeah, we talked about Isaiah Amici, who had a pretty good game last week, over 100 yards through the air. But Cordell Harris is another one of those players. He actually leads the SCIAC in all-purpose yards. He has been a very effective weapon for the Tigers. Out of the shotgun, a 4-receiver set. On 2nd and 1, a short little swing pass over to the left side. Catching that one is Dan Gittleman-Egan, the 6'4" quarterback playing receiver there out of Brookline, Massachusetts.
Yeah,
Gittleman-Egan, he hasn't actually played quarterback this year.
Yeah, but we've seen lots of guys make the transition to receiver at the college and pro level.
One of your favorite players, Julian Edelman, I believe he was a quarterback earlier on.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, actually has a passing touchdown this year for the Patriots.
Braxton Miller as well over at Ohio State, making that transition in college and then moving to the NFL as a wide receiver. So it's definitely possible, and Egan's proving that.
And Gittleman Egan has spectacular hands. Can catch almost anything thrown his way. If it hits him in the hands, he is almost guaranteed to bring it down. Another 4-receiver set with his running back to his left. Waiting for the snap. Play action again. Swings it out to Cordell Harris, who gets a screen. And on the tackle there is a combination of Eddie Favors and Lorenzo Marks. Eddie Favors, part of that trinity of Chapman linebackers that are so good. Miles Alles and Devin Ray. Devin Ray, one of the top leaders in SCIAC play for tackles. But you can't forget about the other two. They are so effective. Eddie Favors actually played a couple years at Golden West where he was even better as this one gets dropped. Brian Scott, a nice little swing pass trying to get a screen for his receiver to no avail. It's going to be 3rd down.
Another underneath pass there. Obviously, Occidental trying to take advantage of that soft Chapman zone, but they tightened up that time and surprised Occidental on that play.
Trying to get a new ball out there on the field. Let's talk a little bit more about this linebacking core. I mentioned that he played for Golden West. He had 28 tackles and a sack as an underclassman, which is just unheard of. In high school, he was his region's defensive player of the year, and that's really something that you shouldn't scoff at. Miles Alles, he's great, 42 tackles and 2 interceptions on the year, but also a 2014-15 all-academic player for the SCIAC. So he's got some good football IQ and some pretty high IQ as well. A nice pass rush, but Brian Scott gets out of the way and actually trucks Devin Kelly to pick up some extra yards.
Yeah, we talked about
Brian
that
Scott
earlier.
right now.
He has quite a few rushing yards this season, almost 100 more than Ricky Bautista, even though he's a passing quarterback.
Yeah, Brian Scott, just looking at him, he looks like a tank who can throw the ball. Take a look at the replay here. They almost got a sack on him right there. Brian Scott knew that the pressure was coming, just took off, and Devin Kelly is not going to be able to tackle him when he has his acceleration going. Pete the Panther celebrating the early 7-0 lead, but Occidental making some noise, marching down the field themselves. They are at the 27 of Chapman. It's 1st and 10. And the nice option play by Brian Scott out to Cordell Harris, who breaks Devin Kelly's tackle and gains an extra 7 yards. 2nd and 3. So Brian Scott, the quarterback, showing off his football IQ, saw he didn't have space in front of him, so gives off to Cordell Harris, who has been targeted already 3 times in this game. Another passing play, looking left. Down the middle and a nice catch. And that's going to be a touchdown. Isaiah Amici. And Amici, such a great red zone threat. Not exactly the most yards, but he does have a couple of touchdowns, 2 to be exact, but hasn't played all season. And boy, I'll tell you, Occidental is happy to have him back.
Yeah, showed right off the bat that they want to get their top 2 guys involved, Cordell Harris and Amici, both of them getting multiple touches on that drive, and Amici finishing it off with a touchdown.
And it looks like Occidental has been targeting the receivers who are going against Devin Kelly. He's been thrown at 5 times already as the extra point is good. So Devin Kelly really might have to step it up in this game. So it is a tie game. Not even 5 minutes gone by, and already we've seen 2 scores. Chapman scored 45 seconds in off of a huge play from Bautista to Isabel. Isabel's 7th touchdown of the year. But then Occidental came back, answered once again. So this might be a battle of whoever has the ball more times will win this game. Our sideline reporter Allison mentioned that Occidental hasn't scored less than 4 touchdowns in any one of their games all year. And the least amount of points they've scored in a game this year is 28, and that's insane considering that Chapman has averaged 18.8 points a game this year.
That's right, off to a hot start already, but Chapman's only allowing 22 points per game right now. We'll see how that turns out.
The kickoff here, headed to Isabel. Isabel recovers it at the 5. Trying to break to the middle, but he gets brought down. No, breaks a tackle. What a play by Isabel. Wow, looking like a automobile, just running people over, breaking tackles left and right. Nice return. Should have been brought down at the 15, but instead they start their drive at the 22. Jacob Isabel, the junior out of Pleasanton, his first year at Chapman, and it's kind of been lucky for the Panthers that Bautista and Isabel, both of them juniors, transfers, and it's their first year together, and already they have developed such a unique and great connection that we are going to be ecstatic to see next year. Isabel, the handoff to Joe Muty. Joe Muty tries to run up the left side and gets brought down about 2 yards ahead of the line of scrimmage, 2nd and 8.
Occidental making a good stop right off the bat there on defense. First run play, Chapman's run all game, and they stopped it for a short gain. That's what they're going to have to keep doing in order to keep the Panthers' offense in check.
Joe Muty, he ran track in high school. He is very, very fast. But something that he likes to do is run in between the tackles and get those hard-earned yards like those inside runs. Those are a little bit more difficult to break for large amounts of yardage, but when they work, boy, do they work. He can break out for some heavy dentage when it comes to field position. Dropping back to pass over the top for Ethan Weinstein. The defensive back falls over, and Ethan Weinstein is gone. Another long touchdown play for Ethan Weinstein this time. Falling down on the play was Cordell Harris. So Cordell Harris was huge on offense, but making a defensive error there, which allowed a over 70-yard touchdown.
As you can see here on the replay,
here,
just finding the hole between the safeties right there. And Weinstein's off to the races with a beautiful finish.
The extra point attempt coming up for Lucas Alfonso. Weinstein going to hold the kick. And it is good. Lucas Alfonso, absolutely magical on that. So once again, barely over a minute into their drive, and they score another touchdown. So Chapman moving the ball very quickly. Sort of the opposite approach for Occidental, who moved it very methodically, first down after first down after first down.
Showing the play again. Like I said, Weinstein finding the hole in the defense right there. And Bautista with a high percentage pass right there. Like I said, completing a high amount this year. And it shows right there with that dime to Ethan Weinstein right there.
Ethan Weinstein and Isabel both laughing and having some fun. And I mean, how could you when both of you have over 60-yard touchdowns already, not even 6 minutes into the game? We could see a very high-scoring affair here today. Lucas Alfonso back to kick. To return is Cordell Harris and Chris Romtoribio. It's going to be Harris.
Faking the reverse right there.
Harris gets out to about the 26-yard line. Brought down on the play by Matt Layton, the sophomore outside linebacker from Bakersfield. So both these teams' special teams have not been that special. Not super great field positioning for either of them so far, but hey, can't complain. 3 possessions and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, both defenses have had major holes here in the beginning of the game. Need to definitely tighten up if this is going to stay low scoring like we expected, but you never know.
I don't think you can ever expect a low scoring game with Occidental involved, one of the best offensive in Division III. Pass out to the right side. It's Brian Scott in and out of the hands of his receiver, Ian Bond.
Yeah, Bond's going to be kicking himself after that one. He had a nice block set up, but he just couldn't haul the pass in.
And once again, Ian Bond was defended by Devin Kelly. So it looks like they're going after that right side, trying to develop screens and really just allow their receivers to get into open space. It has not been working as great as they had hoped so far, but they are getting first downs. The first handoff we've seen from Occidental so far in this game, and that's not going to go anywhere, stuffed at the line. On the tackle there was Andrew Deacon, the defensive end. Deacon has been very effective alongside Austin Pica on that defensive line. They have stuffed the right side.
You can see on the replay, the big play made right there is by number 47. He just cuts down the offensive lineman and plugs up the hole right there off the bat. No running room for the running back.
That's Alden Quartz making that nice cut down. Scott out of the shotgun. Another running back to his right and 3 receivers to his left. Looking to the left. Down the middle, and a nice pass breakup by Ron Washington, and a big hit by Chris Williams. And there's a player down.
Chris Williams with a big hit right there, setting the tone. They are not going to let Occidental throw the ball all over them again. Knocks the receiver down right there, and they are not going to be throwing any more balls up for grabs in his direction.
Look here, it was never expected by Ian Bond that Chris Williams would be there. And, I mean, you can't expect that. The ball is coming your way. You got to focus on catching it, not about avoiding the hit. And that can be very dangerous. And it doesn't look like Ian Bond is going to be getting up anytime soon. This is the last thing you want to see if you're an Occidental fan, especially if you're an Occidental parent. That was Chris Williams making the tackle.
And he's up.
He does get up. That's good to see. Everybody clapping, even the Chapman fans. That's good to see from Chapman.
A lot of those hits sometimes worse than they look worse than they really are a lot of times, but obviously he was hurting after that.
Yeah, absolutely. It hurts a little bit less when you see it coming and you can sort of tense up and get ready for it, but he had no idea.
Definitely.
That's going to bring up 4th down, so the first punt we're going to see of the game. And this one is a boomer down the right sideline. Weinstein's not going to get a chance to return that. And it's going to be out of bounds. Chapman will start their drive at the 46-yard line. So Bautista will head back out there already with 2 huge passing touchdowns, already with over 100 passing yards on the day. Let's take a look at how the 2 teams have been doing all together for offense this season. You look at that.
Scoring-wise, Occidental, an offensive juggernaut. We mentioned that earlier. Rushing yards, they have more. Even though Chapman's a running team, their offense has been getting rolling today, though, with another run play to Jacob Isabel.
Jacob Isabel, the wide receiver, getting a little end around there and gets a nice chunk of yardage, about 7 yards, 2nd and 3. As we mentioned earlier, Occidental, they've been allowing 325 rush yards per game. Take a look at the replay here. A nice read by the defensive player getting to the sideline before Isabel could break free. Bautista out of the shotgun. It's a keeper, a read option, breaks around to the outside and eventually pushed out of bounds. That was Robert Twyman forcing Bautista out of bounds. That's going to move the chains, though, and they're going to enter Tiger territory.
As you can see here on the replay, a read option play for Bautista. The defensive end crashes down and takes the running back. So he pulls the ball out and takes it for himself. That's a main staple in this Chapman offense.
And a flag on the play. It's a false start on Chapman. We'll wait to see who it's on. So that's Alec Cohn, the sophomore offensive lineman out of Los Angeles. Going to set them back 5 yards. But with the way this Chapman offense has been firing on all cylinders, I doubt that those 5 yards are going to make much of a difference. It's 1st and 15. Out of the shotgun, 2 receivers to his right. Looking right, Jacob Isabel drops the pass, and he's a little bit frustrated with himself.
2 mental mistakes in a row now for the Panthers. Coach Owens is definitely going to be telling them that they need to lock in and they need to not get overconfident with this lead.
Chapman is the favorite in this game. You cannot make mental mistakes because those will kill you. Chapman has a chance to really break free in this one and make it a 2-possession game, 2-touchdown game. They cannot afford to keep making those mistakes. Speaking of Jacob Isabel, we talked with him earlier in the season. He said that his goal for his first season in Chapman was to be the SCIAC all-purpose yards leader.
And he's second in that category right now.
Yeah, he's up there in the top 5. I believe he's actually 4th. But he's coming up in his final game of the season against the #1 player, Cordell Harris. Cordell Harris, the returner for Occidental. He's been so effective on kick returns, punt returns, and as a receiver. Got a lot of touchdowns as well. And I mean, like, that's a pretty good hookup between Cordell Harris and Brian Scott.
You're right. Cordell Harris, definitely a guy that they use all over the field, a jack of all trades, and they're going to have to make sure that they limit his touches today so that he can play effectively on both sides of the ball with this Chapman offense.
And a nice screen play over on the right side to Ethan Weinstein. A couple huge blocks down the field, especially by Eric Gonzalez, one of the seniors being honored here today. That's going to move the chain. So on 3rd and long, they managed to get it.
Here on the replay, set up that screen pass. The offensive line gets out there, blocks the corner, makes some key blocks, and Weinstein able to churn forward for a couple more yards and pick up the first down.
And that's what they need. Even a field goal would be so effective, pushing it to a 2-possession game. Lucas Alfonso could probably hit it from here, but they want to get as close as possible. Jacob Isabel making a nice catch, fending off the defender on the tackle there was Eamon McNeil.
Isabel with a nice catch there, but the throw, as you can see, has placed his outside shoulder so that the defender cannot get there and knock it down.
So that's very smart quarterback play by Batista, not letting the defender get to it before Isabel has a chance. Not making it 50-50, that's all you got to do. A run up the middle by Joe Muti, not going to get anywhere, maybe a gain of 1. It's going to be 3rd down.
Able to contain that read option play right there. The defensive end played it a little smarter this time around, and Batista had no choice but to hand it to Muti.
So Muti broke 1 tackle, but eventually got brought down by Chris Garcia, number 34. On 2 plays ago, Eamon McNeil, he's a sophomore from Portland, Oregon. He's actually Occidental's starting center fielder in baseball as well. So on the move, trying to throw it, trying to find Jacob Isabel, just short, and it's going to be 4th down, and we'll get to see a field goal try from Lucas Alfonso. So that play there does not work. The play action slide, as they like to call it.
After a run play, they try to hit him with play action and fool him, but Occidental did not fall for it, and Ricky Bautista, throwing on the run, couldn't connect with his receiver.
This is going to be a 38-yard attempt from Alfonso. 60% on the year. The hold from Weinstein, and the kick is no good, wide left. So it will remain a 1-possession game as Alfonso misses his first kick in quite a while. Through the first 3 games of the season, Alfonso had not made a kick, but since then he was near perfect, only missing 1. So it's strange to see him missing that one there.
Rough start to the season for Alfonso, but he's been very accurate up until this missed kick right now. You saw he had the leg for it, just couldn't quite get it centered up with those uprights.
Absolutely. It was a little bit of a muff snap. Weinstein could not get the laces out right away. Alfonso had to hold back a little bit. Maybe that messed up his timing. And here we see the first pass for a 1st down.
Throwing in Chris Williams' direction again. Occidental saying, we're not afraid of your big hits. We're going to keep coming after you, buddy.
And that's Dan Gittleman-Egan, the big quarterback playing receiver. And, I mean, when I'm Chris Williams, you try to hit him, it's like trying to hit a truck or a cement mixer. He's a big guy out there.
Chris Williams not too small either, but definitely Gittleman Egan, big guy. He's actually lined up at tight end right now, so it's obvious that Occidental's able to use him in many capacities because of his size.
Sort of like a triple threat, quarterback, wide receiver, or tight end. Something you do not want to see. That's very hard to game plan for. Although you have to imagine that Chapman was more game planning for Chris Rom, Toribio, Max Gruber, and Cordell Harris.
That's right. Gittleman Egan, not really a popular player on the stat sheet when you look at it, but he's obviously a contributor on this offense that you cannot
Absolutely,
overlook.
and you got to imagine that he's going to be a huge red zone target once they get in there, as well as Isaiah Amici, who got the touchdown earlier in this game for the Tigers.
I'll be interested if they try to get the ball over to their guy, Cordell Harris, again.
Looks like they might be setting up a screen.
When you let him use his speed to move the ball down the field quickly.
It is not a screen, it is a deep pass down the field, and catching it for the Tigers is Ian Bonds, who gets brought down by Ron Washington. Ron Washington and Chris Williams, a little bit of miscommunication there, deciding who was their man and what zones they were going to cover. And that's going to set up first and 10 at the 14-yard line of Chapman. So a big play, the first big play we've seen from Occidental.
Bond hit big early, but this time he catches a big pass. Goes down the field right over Chris Williams, the guy who knocked him out of his cleats earlier.
Yeah, he was unable to catch it in stride, though. I believe you have to imagine that if he did, he would have been gone, because Ron Washington was about 15 yards behind as the pass down the middle gets broken up. A nice defensive effort there by Lorenzo Marks to stop that one. Dan Gittleman Egan, the target. We talked about him being a red zone threat. Ron Washington on that last play. You have to imagine Ron Washington
Here he comes in from the outside. In that cover 2 defense, his job is to cover the flat, but nobody was there, so he dropped back and he was able to help his safety out to make a play in the end zone.
It's going to be 2nd and 10 from the 14. 4 receiver set, 3 to his right. He muffs the pass, tries to lob it over, and then nice, great catch, in fact, by Ron Washington. Ian Bond once again. We've talked a lot about Amici. We've talked a lot about Harris, and we left out Bond. And it looks like Bond's going to be the big target who makes the big plays in this game.
Showing great resiliency by Bond, knocked down hard on the last drive. 2 big catches on this time, and he just outsized the corner on that one. The quarterback put it up for grabs, and there's really nothing the defender could have done.
You have to imagine after he got hit by Chris Williams that he went to his coach and said, I want to be back out there on the next drive, and I want the ball thrown my way because I'm angry and I want to make a difference right now.
Warrior mentality from Bond, and it's showing.
And here's a fake kick attempt. They're trying to bring it to the outside, but it will not work. It gets brought down on the play. Give a half tackle each to Ben Waters and Adam O'Shea, who made the tackle. So Chapman maintains their lead. It is 14-13. 2 minutes, 51 seconds left here in the first quarter.
The holder didn't want to throw the ball there because if there's an interception on a PAT, the other team can actually return it for 2 points in college.
That's right, they can do that. Luckily for Occidental, that did not happen. It would have made this game a field goal difference. It remains a 1-point game. We haven't seen great returns from any of the teams so far. Neither team has started out past the 30 yet in this game, and that's weird to see. Cordell Harris, Jacob Isabel, and Ethan Weinstein have been so good on special teams the entire year.
Little squib there, showing they don't want to kick it to Isabel.
Instead, they kick it to Diano Pachode, who breaks for a pretty big return, gets it out to the 42-yard line, and some pretty good field positioning for Chapman as they start this drive. So both teams have had 3 offensive drives, and both teams have had 2 passing touchdowns. Chapman has been a little bit more effective as they got a field goal try in the one that they did not score a touchdown. It was wide left, though, Lucas Alfonso. A 1 receiver set, 3 tight ends. The handoff to the running back who gets brought down. On the carry there was Jake Newman, the freshman running back. We haven't seen a lot from him so far this season. Gets his first carry of the game for about 5 yards, 2nd and 5.
You know, Michael, you got to wonder why he's in there at running back now. Muty's usually their guy. You think there's something going on the sideline?
There might be. Jake Newman gets the handoff once again and takes it up for a gain of about 3. It's going to be 3rd and 2. And like you mentioned, Joe Muty, like there might be something going on with him. Maybe he's feeling a little confused or like has some problems, doesn't feel right somewhere. But Brandon Medina is usually their backup, and he's not in there either. Well, either way, Jake Newman got some big carries there, and it is 3rd and short, very manageable. And a flag there. It's a free play for Batista, knowing that he has it, lobs it way downfield for Weinstein, who gets pushed out of bounds by Cordell Harris. But a huge play of about 45 yards as Weinstein gets brought down at the 6. So some smart quarterback play by Batista, knowing that the defense got offsides, knew it was a free play, so just lobbed it downfield, not worrying whether it was going to be an interception or an incomplete pass. And
Weinstein's been getting behind the coverage all game now. If Occidental wants to limit Chapman's offense, they need to continue to stay over the top of those receivers and not miss important coverages like that.
The handoff to Joe Muty. Joe Muty tries to run up the middle on the right side and gets brought down on the play. It's going to be a gain of about 2, 2nd and goal. On the stop there was Harrison Wakefield, the freshman defensive back out of Park City, Utah. It is a heavy set package. 2 tight ends, a receiver, and the running back, Muty. Muty gets the handoff once again and gets into the end zone for a touchdown. So Joe Muty, in the final game of this 2016 season, gets his first touchdown, very much deserved.
That's right, Michael. A touchdown-starved running back finally gets a hole right here. Offensive line creating some great little spots for him to juke into the end zone. Joe Muty with his first touchdown of the season. That's got to feel good.
The only player who really had a chance to tackle Muty was Eamon McNeil, who made a big defensive play earlier in the game and stopped Chapman's drive, forced the field goal. But this time, not going to be able to stop Joe Muty, and he's got to be happy to get that one off his chest. First touchdown in his Chapman career. The PAT attempt gets blocked.
This can be returned.
So it got blocked, but a nice stop there by Dominic Ashley to make sure that Occidental did not get those 2 points back. So it's going to be a 7-point game. Chapman is up by a touchdown now. So both teams missing some PATs. It is 20-13 with still a minute left in the first quarter. And right now it is on pace to be a very, very high-scoring game.
That's right, Michael. Chapman already 20 points. That's already past their season average for points. They have been showing that they want to get rolling on offense and take advantage of this weak Occidental defense.
Take a look at the standings here. Chapman is out of the hunt currently as they lost to Cal Lutheran earlier in the season. So both these teams don't have playoffs to fight for, but there's some very much needed bragging rights and respect. Chapman knows that they want to take it to Occidental. Occidental was the team that actually stopped Chapman from repeating as SCIAC champions a couple years ago. So a little bit of revenge on their mind?
Possibly. There's always another story to each season. So Coach Owens is definitely going to be preaching to his guys one game at a time, but it's always in the back of their minds that they have got to get revenge on these guys for ruining their chance at a repeat for SCIAC champions just a couple years ago.
Yeah, all those players who are currently on Chapman's team that didn't get a ring because of that, they got to be frustrated, and they got to want to take it to them and really knock their head straight for getting rid of that championship attempt. The draw play here, and it's a big run up the middle of about 10 yards. On the carry there was Chris Toribio, his first carry of the game, and it's going to be a big one, going to move the chains. And move them to about the 35-yard line, 1st and 10. 4 receiver set with the running back to his left. On his left are Carlton O'Neill and Isaiah Amici. On his right are Dan Gittleman-Egan and Ian Bond. Pass from Brian Scott, avoiding some pressure. And a nice pass up the middle to Dan Gittleman-Egan for about 13 yards. So a nice pass rush there by Chapman. But Miles Allis not able to get to the quarterback in time. It's going to be a first down. And Brian Scott has been able to show off his awareness in the pocket while being able to look downfield. That's something that not a lot of quarterbacks can do. And Brian Scott has done it to a T very, very, very effectively. That's going to bring us to the end of the first quarter. Chapman leads by a score of 20-13.
High scoring first quarter right here, Michael. Chapman has definitely been taking it to Occidental right here in the first quarter, taking deep shots, being aggressive against that Occidental defense that's allowing a lot of yards this season.
Well, we will be right back in just a second with the second quarter. Chapman 20, Occidental 13, final game of the season. Brian Scott in the offense looking to tie this game up for Occidental. 4 receiver set, throws it out to the right side for Ian Bond. A little screen pass and brought down about 2 yards ahead of the line of scrimmage by Andrew Deacon. So the first play of the second quarter, not a huge play like we've seen so far in this game, but it is solid, setting the tone of pace for this game. It's going to be 2nd and 8. Inside Chapman territory at the 49-yard line. 4 receivers and a running back to his right. On the left, it's one-on-one coverage between Devin Kelly and Carlton. He hands it off up the middle with the run here is Chris Toribio. A solid run and a gain of about 6. It's going to be 3rd and 3. So a little bit of a running back committee for this Occidental team. We've seen mainly Chris Toribio, but we talked about Max Gruber earlier in this game. Max Gruber has been so effective on the ground so far, but that doesn't take away from the greatness of Toribio.
That's right. They're both effective running backs. Gruber's actually listed as number 1 on their depth chart, but it looks like they split snaps as Toribio's been getting plenty of touches as well.
And Toribio has broken out for a couple of big plays in this year, has more yards on the season, but less snaps and less rushing attempts as the first timeout gets taken here of the game. Taking the timeout.
You know, something to look at when it comes to Toribio and Gruber's snap counts is Occidental is a passing offense. So what you want for your running back in a passing offense is not only the ability to catch balls out of the backfield. A lot of guys can do this at this level, but you also need to be able to pass block. There's a lot of option things that running backs do. You need to be able to read the offensive line and pick which guy you're picking up in order to keep your quarterback on his feet. And obviously, Gruber can do that a little bit better, and that's why Toribio doesn't have as many snaps.
Well, you mentioned the size difference in blocking, and size might make a difference. Max Gruber is 6 foot 200, whereas Chris Toribio is only 5'7" and 165. So you mentioned the blocking. Maybe that's why Gruber's been able to be out there for more snaps, because he can just strictly protect Brian Scott better. Looks like neither of them are out there for this play. Excuse me, Chris Toribio is out there in a pistol formation. 2 receivers to the left, 2 receivers to the right. They send Gittleman-Egan in motion. Over on the left, it's going to be Chris Williams going up against Cordell Harris. Throws it up the middle to Gittleman-Egan, and once again, Egan coming through up the middle. Listed as a receiver and a quarterback, but playing the tight end's job right now. Just be a big man and a big target up the middle of the field.
You're right. That was another big breakdown in Chapman's zone coverage. Gittleman-Egan able to get to that second level right behind the linebacker there, and the safety is over the top of him. The quarterback just finds a nice little soft spot right there, and Gittleman Egan, a tough guy to bring down, big guy.
That was really smart by Scott. He saw the blitz coming on that play and noticed that Gittleman Egan, the man who was blitzing, was supposed to guard Gittleman Egan, so just immediately got the center's snap from the pistol, just tosses it over to Gittleman Egan, who was wide open down the middle of the field. It's 2nd and 8. Deep in Panther territory. Look for Gittleman Egan. He is the slot receiver on the right side. On his right is Gittleman Egan, Cordell Harris, and Ian Bond. All of them have been so effective in the pass game so far. Looking to his left, though, but trying to pass it under, and a great defensive play. Breaking up that pass was Derek Hart, the defensive end junior out of Lake Tapps, Washington. So Derek Hart, seeing that it was going to be a little bit of a shovel pass there, we see here Chris Toribio just sort of steps out, turns around. Derek Hart comes from the other side of the field. The right side got blocked, wasn't able to get to the quarterback, but saw Toribio, runs over there and just gets his hand in for enough time.
Hart showing he's been doing work in the film room. Obviously that screen pass is something they run often. He saw it right off the bat as soon as the ball was snapped and got his hand in there to poke it away. Looking
to his right into the end zone and deep for Ian Bond and broken up by Ron Washington. A nice defensive effort.
Trying to put it up for his big guy again there, but not going to out-jump Chris Williams there. They're about the same size.
That's going to bring out the field goal unit. We've already seen one missed field goal from Chapman. Look at the replay here. Brian Scott, it wasn't his first option, but decides to just throw it up in the corner for Ian Bond. A little bit underthrown, and Ron Washington able to get his hand in there.
You can see he tried to look off Chris Williams there right at the beginning of the play. Looked to his left, then looked back to his right to his primary option. Chris Williams didn't bite on the look. Gets in there to knock the ball away.
This field goal attempt off the right upright and good.
And it's good. That's the first time I've ever seen a kick like that.
Yep, I've seen him hit the upright. I've seen him hit the crossbar, but I've never seen them hit the absolute top of the goalpost and have it bounce back in. We're going to send it right down back to Allison Arthur, who has a little bit more information on this game.
Thanks, guys. Well, there you have it. Joe Muti finally made his first touchdown of the season. The team was really excited that he finally got that, but afterwards, Coach Howard talked to his offensive line saying that in a game like this, little things will start to become magnified, so they really have to be perfect, and they really can't afford to make mistakes. Now we have a 4-point lead, so we'll see if Chapman can maintain this lead throughout the rest of the game. Back to you.
Indeed, it's going to be a very tough lead to maintain, just 4 points. Chapman has got to look to either get a field goal or a touchdown and keep this one out of reach. The kickoff here, first non-squib we've seen is to Jacob Isabel, who gets some good blocking up front. Tried to get brought down from behind, even more blocking, and eventually gets brought down by the swarm of Tigers. The main Tiger on the stop there was Carlton O'Neill, the sophomore wide receiver out of San Diego. So we've seen a little bit from O'Neill on offense. Hasn't been thrown to, but he has been one of those players who, when we have 3 receivers on the left, he's on the right side and just making the defense defend that side of the field. Allows Brian Scott to look off the safeties.
That's right, Brian Scott. He's been coached up by his quarterback's coach. Guy has a great resume. Actually was the coach of Marcus Mariota at a high school in Hawaii at St. Louis High School. And definitely Scott, oh, here comes Isabel around the side on a reverse. And we got a late hit flag, it looks like.
Not sure if there's going to be a late hit flag, and a nice stiff arm by Isabel to gain some extra yards. On the tackle there was Matthew Mulvihill. And another face mask call. This is the first one we've seen against Occidental, and that's going to be huge, an additional 15 yards for Chapman. You see the replay here. It looked like
Defensive
Batista
end.
was going to do a shovel option to Joe Muti, but instead Isabel on the end around gets brought down by his face mask at about the 46-yard
right.
line, and instead it will be at Occidental's 37.
The defensive end didn't stay home on that, bit down on the run play to the other side, and Isabel was off to the races.
Batista looking down the middle of the field for Isabel. And it's just incomplete. For a while there, it looked like Cordell Harris might have had the interception, but the referee's saying, no, 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 that hit the ground first, incomplete.
Let's look at the replay. We'll see if that was actually an incomplete pass or not. It's really hard for the refs to be able to tell here in the D3 level. We don't have instant replay available for them. They don't get to call into the NCAA headquarters and see what's up.
Ever since that first offensive drive, we haven't seen much from Cordell Harris on their side of the ball, but we have seen him defend a lot of passes getting thrown his way. The rush by Joe Muti up the middle on the left side. In between the tackles for a solid gain of about 6, 3rd and 4.
Here on the replay, there's a lot of penetration in there at the beginning of the play, but Muti able to churn his legs, break those first 2 tackles, and get forward for a few yards to make that a positive play.
And that's what Joe Muti is so good at. He is a different style of runner than Chapman has had in the past. Jeremiah McKibbins and Hakeem McGrew were both one-cut backs with a lot of speed. They had some great moves, and they were able to get around defenders. Joe Muti likes to run into the teeth of the defense and just get those hard-earned yards and truck people. He is a fighter. Ethan Weinstein on the curl route gets brought down at about the 15-yard line by Cordell Harris. Ethan Weinstein, another one of those seniors being honored here today, and he has had quite the illustrious career at Chapman as well.
Looking here at the replay, Weinstein able to turn around and get good communication with the quarterback right there, finding the soft spot in the zone defense. Here he is again. Cordell Harris can't make the tackle, and Weinstein is in for the touchdown.
Once again, Weinstein is the target there, getting targeted on 2 straight plays against Cordell Harris. And that's some good communication by Batista and Weinstein. Saw that Cordell Harris was giving him too much space, just runs a little under route for good yardage, and then not able to make the tackle, which looks like it might have been a horse collar anyway.
Not quite. He got the jersey right there, but definitely got to wrap up right there. The cornerbacks are taught, you got to grab the guy's legs. You got to wrap him up. But Cordell Harris not doing it right there. Couldn't quite reach Weinstein and just had to make a last-ditch effort to try and tackle him, but he couldn't get him. He was already beat.
So Weinstein with his 2nd touchdown of the game. He has been so effective on offense this year for Chapman, which is kind of weird because for the previous 3 years of his career, he's been a defensive back and an effective one at that. Broken up a bunch of passes and gotten a couple interceptions as well in his career. This year he just said, Coach Owens, I want to play offense, and Coach Owens says, you got it, my man. And look, he's been an amazing target, an amazing route runner for Batista.
Yeah, Weinstein adding to their depth there at wide receiver, and he's become a force. He's definitely the number 2 option behind Jacob Isabel, and when Jacob Isabel draws those double coverages with the double man and a safety over the top, then Weinstein's left one-on-one with Cordell Harris, and maybe his experience as a defensive back has been able to help him win that matchup today.
Absolutely. It's like Richard Sherman, who was a wide receiver at Stanford, comes into the NFL and is a cornerback. You're just able to know the mind of who you're going against so much better, and that helps you when you play the opposite position, opposite side of the field. The return out here takes it out of the end zone and gets stopped and brought down at the 17-yard line by Devin Kelly. That was Carlton O'Neill on the return. Also in on the stop was Kayvon Amizadeh. So it's going to set up 1st and 10 at their own 17. Only a 3-receiver set. Dan Gittleman-Egan playing tight end for this play. Out of the pistol. Gittleman-Egan in motion, going to move to the slot on the left side. This is the first snap that we've seen Kazim Apaydin in. And this pass play, a little swing pass and screen out to the left side for Carlton O'Neill. That's going to gain 11 and move the sticks.
Yeah, Occidental still taking advantage of those second-level holes in that cover 2 zone. Chapman playing tight up front with those linebackers, but the safeties can't afford to move up too high or too close. As you can see, he breaks the first tackle right there, and the safety's there to push him out.
You mentioned the safeties being a little bit too far out. Lorenzo Marks was on the opposite side of the field, and he was at about the 40-yard line. You can't be that far back, especially when Occidental has been running all these screen plays this year. A run up the middle, that's not going to go anywhere. Brought down on the play by Miles Allis.
Yeah, you mentioned how deep the safeties were. They're definitely being wary of Brian Scott's passing ability. This Occidental offense kind of got a wide open playbook, spread option offense. They throw it a lot, and those safeties do not want to get beat deep. I think that is definitely their #1 priority today. That's probably why they're lined up so far.
You mentioned the great ability of Brian Scott. That's understated, but it's strange because he might not have never gotten to be the starting quarterback had Tommy Edwards in his sophomore year gotten injured and allowed Brian Scott to get his opportunity. Brian Scott, he wasn't supposed to start, and then that year got the opportunity, and he was second team all-conference. And that just shows the amazing ability of the offensive coordinator, Darnell Arsenault, who was the quarterback coach that year. He's now the offensive coordinator. And Arsenault, he was a quarterback himself, actually played at Utah, and they went 11-2 while he was the starting quarterback. So very effective and able to transfer his playing experience and ability to this level and really create such great quarterbacks in Brian Scott.
Definitely. Guys taking over for the injured starter has actually been a theme this year. We've seen Dak Prescott do it over in the NFL, and Brian Scott did it before he did.
And a nice tackle there on the play, but that's not going to knock the ball out of his hands. Ian Bondi making a great catch and able to hold on there. That's something you don't expect to see. You expect when you get hit that hard by Eddie Favors, you expect the ball to pop out. Ian Bond earlier in the play dropped a pass after getting hit right after the catch by Chris Williams. Was not going to have it this time.
Bondi hanging in there after all those hits. His quarterbacks made him vulnerable a couple times, but he just keeps on going. That dude's got a warrior mentality for sure.
That's going to bring up 4th down in the second punt we've seen for Occidental. Almost blocked, but it's going to get out to Ethan Weinstein. A little dribbler, not going to return it, and this one's going to take a nice Occidental bounce all the way to the 14-yard line. So a nice punt. A nice punt that we've seen in this game. Not great field position for Chapman, but they have maintained their 27-16 lead. 2 possessions. Maybe they can make it a 3-possession game on this drive. Less of an offensive showcase we've seen in this second quarter. It was 20-13. We've only seen 10 points in this second quarter, and I know that's a lot in general, but after that first quarter, it just seems a little bit less than what we expected.
Definitely Occidental being pressured by Chapman's stellar defense this year. Their offense hasn't been quite up to par this year, not scoring too many points, but Chapman's defense has been picking up the slack, keeping the games low scoring, and today against a defense that's not as strong, their offense has been able to open it up a little bit and have some more freedom.
Earlier in the game also, we talked about Ricky Batista and his completion percentage, how effective he is. He actually has not missed a pass so far in this game, especially on that one there. That just shows how good he is in knowing where he needs to go. Fumbled the snap a little bit, but knew his hot route and just trusted his receiver, Jacob Isabel, to come up with the catch, which he did. Unfortunately, it didn't go for many yards.
Yeah, Bautista bobbled the snap on that, still able to get it out, but Ian Craddock actually missed the block on Cordell Harris, and he's able to make the play.
Ricky Batista looking down the field, and over on the left side, it's Ethan Weinstein who catches the ball at about the 30-yard line. A little bit of a late block there by Jacob Isabel on Cordell Harris, but no flag thrown on the play. Cordell Harris got up immediately after that and walked over to the referee, and he was like, what was that? There should be a flag.
You can see here on the replay, Weinstein just settling right under the safety on that option route, and Bautista able to get the ball in there to him for a complete pass.
A long pass attempt by Ricky Batista goes deep for Mark Pacharek, and he drops it. There's a flag on the play. We'll see what the call is. It's going to be offsides on Mason Duran. And maybe that's why Ricky Batista decided to throw it deep. He knew he had a free play, as we saw earlier in the game. He did that to Ethan Weinstein. Mark Patrick had his man beat, but unable to come up with the ball. A little bit underthrown. You can't blame Patrick. That's very effective quarterback play by Batista.
Yeah, great awareness by Bautista. We see Aaron Rodgers do that a lot in the NFL. You see that yellow fly up in the air and the play doesn't stop, you take your shot because it's probably a free play.
Another read option for Ricky Batista. Tries to go around the defender to no avail. He will be stopped at right about the first down marker, but it is passed for a chain movement, 1st and 10. So Ricky Batista, 1st and 10, been so effective on this drive on his feet and in the air. A flag thrown on the play. It's a false start, and this is going to send Chapman 5 yards back.
Chapman got to limit those mental mistakes here with this lead. Got to keep their heads in the game. Coach Owens is going to be preaching that on the sidelines and in the locker room during halftime. In order to maintain a lead like this, they have to stay focused, they have to stay on their toes, and false starts are not a good way to do that.
Committing that false start was Ryan Moles, the freshman offensive lineman. He's been very good all season. He's one of the reasons Batista has been sacked so little times, despite last week being sacked 6 times as this pass is incomplete. He's going to be very effective for Chapman for years to come. Only allowed 3 sacks on the season.
Good throw by Bautista there on that throw to Dominic Vatcher, the wide receiver, putting it right where his receiver had a chance to get it. Couldn't haul it in, but definitely showing us why he has that high completion percentage, keeping the ball out of the hands of the defense.
Yeah, Batista looking more like a all-Madden quarterback because he's just not missing his passes and finding receivers deep and downfield. That one just out of the reach and just too far left. Batista gets away from the tackle, and a flag gets thrown. Batista scrambles for a gain of about 10. It's going to be 3rd and 5. Notwithstanding the penalty.
That flag in the backfield there down by the 30. Most likely, yep, holding.
So in 3 plays, we've seen 2 penalties against Chapman. Committing that one there is Eric Swallander, another freshman offensive lineman.
We saw the holding right there on number 92 by Occidental, or on Occidental.
That's Paul Charbonneau.
Kind of unnecessary too. Called. Bautista was already down the field.
So 2nd and very, very long. Batista lines up in a 4-receiver set, sends Joe Muti in motion, and another flag getting thrown, and another penalty against Chapman. This time it's delay of game. And these are just undisciplined penalties. Got to stay aware. This one's on Batista. Should have called for the snap a little bit earlier. So once again, 2nd and 30. Pass down the middle to Ethan Weinstein, who breaks a couple tackles and after contact still got about 4 yards, eventually brought down on the play by Christian Clark. But once again, Ethan Weinstein has been so effective down the middle and on the sideline. He's been everywhere in this game. Look at him here. He's not covered off the line.
Today. Right there, under the safety. Bautista throws it in there right over the linebacker. Perfect pass. And Weinstein able to hold on for a 3rd and 2.
Batista, a nice little swing pass out to Isabel, who gets it enough for a 1st down. That's all you want. 3rd and short, just get a 1st down. Isabel did exactly what he needed to do.
Looking like we're getting a little scuff here on the sideline. Isabel's helmet taken off and players yelling at each other. The ref had to break it up. Temper's definitely going to start flaring high here if Chapman is able to extend this lead.
And Isabel we saw earlier in this drive with a late hit on Cordell Harris that didn't get called, so maybe the Occidental players trying to get Harris's back. This is going to send Isabel off the field for 1 play, so one of the biggest targets not going to be on the field for Chapman for this 1 play. Luckily, it's a first down, so not that much of a difference as this run is Joe Muti on the right side gets stuffed at the line. Brought down on the play by Keaton Schiffman, the 6'2" defensive lineman out of Oakview. I love it. Oakview is a wonderful town. Second and 9. They are in Occidental territory at the 44. Batista tries another read option, gets around 2 defenders, stumbles a little bit, and is unable to pick himself back up.
Looks like the ball got put on the ground at some point, but I think Bautista was already down. That's what the referee is saying.
So they're going to say that Batista was down.
Here on the replay, you can see the blocks just weren't there for Bautista. He got hit by 3 guys right there. The offensive line got to take better care of their guy who's been playing lights out today.
A little bit of a pick your poison there for Ricky Batista. It's a read option, which means he's supposed to either hand it off to the running back, Joe Muti, or take it for himself. And he looked around, said, Joe Muti doesn't have anybody in front of him. I don't have anybody in front of him. This is going to hurt. Let's just try to get it as far as we can.
Coach Owens calling the timeout right here. Needs to focus up his guys. 3 penalties on this one drive. Here in the SCIAC, you can see Laverne and Whittier up there in the first playoff bracket. Cal Lutheran and Redlands playing.
That's a very close game between Cal Lutheran and Redlands. Redlands is first in the SCIAC, Cal Lutheran at 4th. So maybe we could see that first loss for Redlands. That would be something, wouldn't it? Also, Pomona Pitzer versus Claremont Mudscripts. Pomona Pitzer, a team that earlier in the season embarrassed Chapman during the homecoming game, winning 35-7. It's good to see Claremont Mudscripts giving them a taste of their own medicine.
Yeah, that Pomona Pitzer game was definitely a turning point for the Chapman defense. Since then, they've been very, very effective on the field, keeping other teams to a low 38% on third down. Obviously, contributing to their continued success this season. Hopefully they can get above 500.
Well, 500 is not necessarily the season goal. It's usually the playoffs, but 500 is not a bad mark either. You will definitely take that if you're a Chapman program. Batista's swing pass over to the right side. Joe Muti has some space, but eventually gets forced out of bounds by Chris Garcia.
Yeah, you mentioned 500, not where the Panthers want to be, but they have a lot of juniors here. Bautista Jr., Isabel Jr., a lot of these guys are juniors. They're able to keep the core of their squad intact, including Muti, and next year they'll be able to come back. They have chemistry already. Hopefully they'll be able to take it further next year.
Corbin Kofer making his first appearance in this game, the tight end. He's a great blocker and an even better pass catcher. Look for him to make an effort on this play, maybe even a run where Kofer can get some nice blocking out in front. 3 receivers set, looking to his left. Nice awareness by Batista. Finds Weinstein down the middle for his 3rd touchdown of the game. A 36-yarder. So Batista, I hope we get a replay of that because Batista was sacked. He should have been sacked, but so much awareness there on the play, avoided the tackler, and was able to find Weinstein up the middle of the field.
Here's Bautista, makes a little swim move over the defensive lineman, and Weinstein in man coverage, able to break out and get away from his guy for the touchdown right there.
You have to imagine Evan Buckwalter, number 45, the man who should have made the sack there. He's got to be a little bit frustrated with himself, unable to get Batista and allowing a touchdown on that play.
Yeah, Occidental definitely, they were not expecting that. They were in man coverage and they blitzed a couple guys. I think they were expecting a run on that 4th and short.
So Batista, he has really been able to show off his skills in this game. With the read option, he's gotten a couple good runs. His awareness, he's avoided a lot of sacks. And he probably doesn't want to be on the ground, especially after last week getting sacked 6 times. And he's shown off his arm as well with 4 passing touchdowns, 3 of them to Ethan Weinstein. And it's Ethan Weinstein's final game in his Chapman career. And man, especially if Chapman could win this game, what a way to go out.
What a way to go out, especially on senior day here for Ethan Weinstein, making the switch this year from his natural position at defensive back over to offense, helping his team out, adding depth here at wide receiver, becoming the number 2 option to Jacob Isabel, and he's finishing it off in a bang.
So we're going to see the kickoff here. Less than 2 minutes left in the first half. Chapman leads 33-16. They have officially doubled up Occidental. The kick here, a little bit of a liner. Gets to Chris Toribio, who takes it up the right sideline and gets brought down before the 20-yard line at about the 19. On the tackle there was Brandon Ratuda.
Chapman special teams not giving up any ground today. Not a single kickoff return has made it past the 20 so far.
You know what's crazy? Weinstein has 3 touchdowns in the first half alone today. He only had 3 touchdowns in the first 8 games of the season. So really being so effective in this game, and you got to imagine that he wants to go out in style, showing off just how great his career was. So we're going to re-kick. There was a penalty on the play. Here we see the touchdown from Weinstein once again. So fast, and they're just like, geez, once again, everybody's so happy for him. And they're going to miss him.
Yeah, Weinstein, a leader on this team, a senior. Like I said, he made a big sacrifice by changing position to become a wide receiver. And you said he only had 3 touchdowns in the first 8 games. It's not it's obvious that he liked playing defensive back. That otherwise he wouldn't have been playing that position. So switching over to wide receiver for him, obviously a sacrifice for his team. They weren't super deep at that position with upperclassmen, and he has made an impact here, especially today.
I think one of the reasons that he's been able to make the switch and be so effective is because in his first 3 years at Chapman, he was able to mentor Chris Williams, who's been so effective at safety for Chapman this year. And if Chris Williams wasn't as good as, if he wasn't playing as well as he has been this year, you have to imagine that Ethan Weinstein would have to make the switch back because Chapman's defense would not be as effective.
Yeah, that's definitely a good thing that Chris Williams has been playing so great this year, able to keep Weinstein on the offensive side where they need him. And he's been making, like we said, making an impact this whole season and especially today.
So a penalty, an illegal block in the back, and to send Occidental back a couple of yards. The delayed handoff, the draw here to Chris Toribio gets brought down by Miles Allis on the play. Miles Allis looks like he's almost involved in every single defensive effort for Chapman, made a couple of key tackles, and stopped Chris Toribio and Max Gruber from getting big yards.
That's the second draw play we've seen so far. You gotta, as the Chapman defense, you gotta surrender some of those plays because Occidental is a passing offense. They're gonna do stuff like this.
Up the middle, the pass is intercepted. The intended target was Isaiah Amici, and it gets intercepted by Lorenzo Marks, his second interception of the year. And Brian Scott, that's not something we see a lot from him. Maybe it's because they run a lot of screens, but we do not see a lot of touchdowns. Only his 5th touchdown allowed, only his 5th interception thrown on the year.
As you can see, not really getting pressured here, but doesn't see that second safety over the top of his receiver, number 10. He is not able to make the grab, and the safety cuts underneath to grab the interception. Chapman football.
It looked like the intended target was Dan Gittleman-Egan up the middle of the field. Looked like it might have been an option play because Gittleman-Egan turned around and was expecting the pass to come, but it was just 5 feet over his head. The pass from Bautista intended for Dominic Vacker. That's not going to go anywhere. It's going to be 2nd down and 10. The second missed pass we've seen from Bautista in this game. He's been so effective throwing the ball. Vacker is going to take a step out for this next play. It's going to bring in Diano Pachote and Corbin Kofer. Corbin Kofer's been in for 1 play in this game, and they scored a touchdown. Here's his 2nd play. We'll see what happens.
Chapman bringing in a heavier set right here. You got to think it's going to be a run play.
It's a play action. Bautista looking over to the right side of the field. Ethan Weinstein just out of his reach and almost a quarter of touchdowns for Batista. To no avail. 3rd down and 10 it remains. We have not seen a lot of running plays in this game by either team. That's something we expected Chapman to do more often, was to run the ball with Joe Muti, get him going. And even though he has a touchdown, we haven't seen a lot of attempts for him.
Yeah, well, Occidental's allowing over 300 rushing yards per game. They've also been allowing 268 rushing yards, or passing yards per game, which is the 2nd most in the Sky Conference. So Chapman obviously deciding what they want to do here, and they decided that they want to throw today.
You can't blame them. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, and it is definitely not broken for Chapman. With only 41 seconds left here in the first half, it's going to bring out the field goal unit as this is 4th down and 6. Lucas Alfonso might get another chance to put 3 points on the board for his team. Already we've seen a missed field goal and a missed PAT for Alfonso.
Yeah, we're going to see what Coach Owens does here. That long field goal has a chance to go in, but he already missed one, and we're going to see what he decides to do. That's why he took the timeout. He's trying to decide. He's trying to ask his guys what they think. You always want to consult your quarterback and your receivers as to what they think is going to work, because they've been out there looking at stuff that you can't see. You're not on the field with them, and you can only be able to tell so much from up in the booth and down on the sideline.
As you can see, it's 83 degrees outside, but that is nothing compared to how much Chapman's offense is on fire. They are absolutely hot. Both teams' offenses have been extremely on point to start the game. A couple wind, 5 miles per hour when it comes to the wind, heading in the southwest direction.
Chapman's going to go for it. Coach Owens doesn't trust his kicker from this distance. Can't blame him really, but we'll see what happens.
Lucas Alfonso has quite the leg, but not going to go for it here. Tries to pass it up the middle. He finds Weinstein, who's going to break free, finds some space, and takes it out to about the 24-yard line. That's going to be a 1st down. And
Weinstein, avoiding his tacklers, actually moved behind the 1st down marker. He is lucky that they gave him the forward progress on that.
The Panthers average only 18.8 points per game. They've gotten 33 in the first half. Look at the replay here. It's just a short little drag route, something I don't like to see a lot of the time because they are so effective. I wonder why offenses don't run them more. Just underneath, so effective against both cover 2 and cover 3. We have a player down on the field. So the 2nd time we've seen somebody down on the field for Occidental. That's Benjamin Cameron, who was in on the tackle. He is a senior, and in this final game, that's something you don't want to do. That's something you don't want. The last thing you want when you're a senior in your final game for your school, you don't want to get injured and have to stay out the rest of the game. Looks like he's going to get up and be all right. He's walking off on his own power. Maybe we'll see him later.
Hopefully he's able to come back into the game just like his offensive counterpart Bondi did.
And maybe he can make a big effort for Occidental as Bondi did, scoring a touchdown. Obviously, we want Chapman to do well as well. 31 seconds left here in the first half. Only 24 yards away from the end zone. And you never know with Batista and his 2 great targets, Isabel and Weinstein, you can never know what's going to happen. Weinstein out of the shotgun, looking right to the end zone. Down the middle, he finds his man for another Chapman touchdown. Receiving that one was Ian Craddock, the junior wide receiver out of Carpinteria, California. His first receiving touchdown of the season. So it's almost like as soon as I said it, it happened. Anything can happen. They had plenty of time. That play goes for 24 yards and a score. Lucas Alfonso's PAT attempt is good. This is going to put them to 40 points before the first half. So they had 20 in the first quarter, 20 in the second quarter. They are on pace to score 80 now. Wouldn't that be something?
That would be something. That's double their season average here at 19 points per game. The Panthers offense exploding today against that Occidental defense, and the Occidental defense staying true to form, giving up 40 points in the first half. They're averaging giving up 49 points a game this season. That is just unacceptable from a defense. You got to think they'll probably be making a coaching change next year.
Up the middle, so perfectly placed by Batista. Ian Craddock straight off the line beat his cornerback and just able to get into the end zone on that streak play. That's something you can't allow if you're a cornerback. You can't let somebody beat you on a streak. No move is made. They're just running straight down the field, straight down the middle of the field, and that's something you can't allow to happen if you're a defensive back.
Yep, Bautista throwing it perfectly right there, and that's something that Occidental has dangerously put themselves in this situation where Bautista is in a great rhythm going into the second half, and he's not afraid to pull the trigger.
On the return there was Kazima Payton. He gets brought down at about the 35-yard line, actually dragged one of the Chapman players down the field a little bit. A little bit of helmet-to-helmet contact as well, not called though. You could hear all the Occidental parents go, ooh, and then make the motion to throw a flag. However, the referees were not going to do that. So they will start their drive, only 12 seconds left in the second half from their 31-yard line.
Occidental, a rough start today, but there's plenty of orange here in the Chapman stands here to support them.
So Brian Scott out of the gun. A nice little shovel pass to Chris Romtribio. Knows where to go. Gets brought down by the mammoth Devin Ray. Devin Ray's like a vacuum. If you get into his arms, he's going to suck you up and bring you down. Leader on this Chapman team in tackles.
And Occidental calling a timeout right there. Looks like that little shovel pass, nice by Brian Scott right there to get it to his running back, and he's able to juke and jive his way to 7 yards. Occidental calling a timeout right here. It looks like they're going to try and score before the half.
Can't blame them. You got to go for it, especially when you're down by 24 points. That's at least 3 possessions if you manage to score on every single 2-point conversion and get a touchdown every single possession.
Yeah, Occidental head coach Doug Simone's sending a message to his team here at the end of the half. Lots of coaches would take a knee, go into halftime, go into the locker room, regroup, replan, see what they're doing wrong. But he's saying we're not giving up. We're going to take a shot here and try and go into halftime on a high note.
Well, Doug Simone's not one to back down from a challenge, trying to tell his players that they still have a chance despite being down by such a large margin. Might see a Hail Mary or another little screen pass. Play action, tries to throw it to the outside, and he gets it to O'Neal for a gain of about 16 and gets it to the 49-yard line of Chapman with 2.2 seconds. So very smart by Brian Scott.
Faking that draw play right on the start of the play. Faking a play that's been deadly to Chapman so far. Catching him off guard a little bit, giving that receiver a little bit of space to get to the sideline. Right here, as you can see, that's a very smart play here near the end of the half. They only have two timeouts left, but they don't want to use them until they get into field goal range.
Some prevent defense being run by Chapman. 4 defensive backs lined up at about the 20, so 30 yards. Brian Scott's just going to take this one and run it for about 12 yards, but that's not going to matter. The time runs out on the first half, but there's a penalty on the field.
We're going to have a dead ball, personal foul, number 56. That penalty be administered in the second half. It's halftime.
So that penalty will not let Occidental run another play. It will be administered at the beginning of the second half. And we will take a break right after this. Chapman currently leads 40-16. What a half they have been going through. And you have to imagine Ricky Batista has been playing spectacular. And Ethan Weinstein even better.
Yeah, Ricky Bautista definitely has been a growing offensive force for this team this year. Right at the beginning of the season, he was splitting snaps with other quarterback Mac Vale, who had been here before him. Bautista, a transfer. Coach is not totally sure what they have with him, and he wins the job at the beginning of the season, continuing to grow his comfortability in the offense, upping his pass completion percentage, and it's very obvious today that he has developed chemistry with his receivers, and he's becoming more and more comfortable in this offense. He's not afraid to pull the trigger on those passes and take deep shots down the field.
Not to mention the defense. we'll talk about that a little bit later. Right now we have Allison, our sideline reporter. She's with Coach Owens, and you have to imagine she has got to be with a pretty happy coach right now. What's up, Allison?
And now, fans, we'll start our halftime.
Thanks, guys. I'm here with Chapman head coach. Coach O, great start to the last home game of the season. The team got a touchdown within the first minute of the game, and now you have a significant 24-point lead. What was said to the team in the locker room before the game to give them this motivation to come out so strong?
We said simply two things. One, have fun. Two, it's senior day.
Yeah, and it is the last game of the season, and with this huge lead, what's going to go on in the locker room right now to make sure that they keep the momentum going and really ensure that they get this win?
Well, we're going to remind our guys that this is one of the top offenses in our conference. These guys are outstanding. They do a great job. They're averaging about 40 points a game. They can put points up real fast. They get the ball first. We have to come out and have the same kind of conviction in the second half that we did in the first half. We have to come out real strong and play hard this quarter coming up to third quarter.
Great. Thank you so much for your time. That's it, guys. Back to you.
All right, well, definitely something to cheer about for the Chapman Panthers. A huge 24-point lead. Offense, defense, everything going well. We will be right back as halftime goes on. Occidental and Chapman, second half coming up. So some fireworks we've seen here on Chapman's offense. 40 points in the first half. They average 20 points a game on the season. So really some great offensive play from the Panthers. Chapman leads 40-16. Definitely a lot of big plays. Chapman's offense and defense both working to a T. And Tim, Chapman's defense, they've done a lot of good things as well, holding one of the best quarterbacks in SCIAC to very few yards and only one touchdown.
Yep, we have some highlights to show you guys. Great, exciting game on the Chapman side of the ball so far. Not so much on the Occidental side. They've only got one touchdown so far. Sorry, two touchdowns. So our first highlight is Jacob Isabel getting the pass from Ricky Bautista here. Gets the lead block from Ethan Weinstein and rumbles into the end zone. Cordell Harris trying to make a play all the way down the field, but he just can't get off Weinstein's block. Our next highlight up is Occidental has a great pass right here to Dan Gittleman-Egan, the big guy who's transitioned from quarterback to wide receiver and tight end. Another pass here from quarterback Scott on the Occidental side. Sorry, a run. He takes off running, finishes it off with a big hit here on the end. And then we have our Occidental touchdown, which is Scott to Amici, his guy. Great pass right in there. Threads the needle by Scott. Touchdown, Occidental. Next up, Weinstein and Harris are duking it out, and Weinstein is winning. Harris misses the tackle. Weinstein off to the races. Finishes it off just like he's running track. Boom, right there with the track finish. And then we have another play from Occidental. Down the field to Bondi, who got lit up earlier by Chris Williams, comes back in, makes a big play for his team, puts them in scoring position. And then we have another touchdown for Ethan Weinstein, breaking another Cordell Harris tackle and diving into the end zone for the touchdown. Here we have another play. Bautista with a swim move over the defensive lineman, throws the ball to Ethan Weinstein. Who else? Into the end zone, off to the races for Ethan Weinstein. And then Chapman making plays on defense. Scott doesn't see the safety over the top right here, and he just comes right in for the interception. Lorenzo Marks taking it down the field, sets up another Chapman offensive drive. They've had plenty of those today. And then Chapman right here with another touchdown pass for Ricky Bautista, puts it on the money for Craddock, his receiver, and there's a touchdown. And then we have just a short run here by Ram Taribo, the Occidental running back. He has been held to just a few yards today after averaging almost 9 yards a carry all season.
Yeah, Ram Taribo has been so effective all year. Very big playability. Chapman's just held him. Nothing.
Nothing at all. That Chapman defense has been in the face of the Occidental offense.
Welcome back to Ernie Chapman Stadium. Chapman off to a big lead in the first half, on pace to score 80 points. That would be phenomenal. I'm sure Coach Owens wouldn't mind that as well. Have to imagine that Coach Simones on Occidental's side had to tell his team that, hey, we have one of the best offenses in SCIAC, and we just don't look like it. We have not looked like a good offensive team. We have not looked like the better team. We do not look like we deserve to win this game.
Yeah, this scoring explosion by Chapman probably not going to quite reach 80 points. If they stayed on pace, however, that's what it would be. But it's senior day. Don't look for them to slow down, but do look for Occidental's defense to make some adjustments and be able to slow down Chapman at least a little bit.
Talking about adjustments, they might have to adjust to stop Ethan Weinstein. Weinstein already 3 touchdowns on the day, including his longest of his career, a 74-yarder. He has been so good at getting around cornerbacks and finding open space for Batista to throw into. And I once heard that a good quarterback does not read where his players are. He reads the spaces between his players. And that's what he's been able to do. He's been able to find Weinstein in a place where there's nobody around him.
That's right. Ricky Bautista, just like any other good quarterback, is going to throw his guys open. He's not throwing to a man, he's throwing to a space. That's when you make your reads, you look at the defense, and depending on how the defense reacts to your play, the receiver and the quarterback are going to react accordingly, and that chemistry has been there all day for Ricky Bautista and Ethan Weinstein.
You told me recently that most modern plays are actually options these days. And that just shows you have to be in sync when you're a quarterback and a receiver.
Yes.
Because you got to be able to read the defense.
So important to learn your plays, know your reads, and it's not just the quarterback who needs to make reads anymore. Uh-oh.
Brian Scott out of the gun. 4 receiver set. Trips on his right side. Ram Toribio on his left. Moves over to his right. 2nd and 4. If you were wondering why Chapman kicked that ball off at the 50-yard line, it's because there was a penalty at the end of the first half. As Ram Toribio breaks a big run up the middle. Nobody's able to get him until Ron Washington chases him down from the other side of the field.
Washington, the #1 corner on the Chapman squad over there on the defensive side. And he makes the tackle there. Definitely a game-saving play right there.
Chris Ram Toribio, he's just a sophomore, and as we said, he's averaged almost 9 yards a carry.
Yes.
So
breaks the Chris Williams tackle right there. Not something we've seen today. Chris Williams has been out there making plays all over the field. Gets a little too aggressive that time. Doesn't take the correct angle over there to Ram Toribio, and Ram Toribio is off and running.
A little bit of a slap in the face to the Chapman defense, reminding them that they still need to play. It is not guaranteed they're going to win this game. A big play down the sideline from Brian Scott, finding his man down the line. That's Amici, and he's going to be down at the 4-yard line. So 2 big plays sets up a 1st and goal.
Occidental setting an aggressive tone coming out here right at the beginning of the half. Obviously wanting to score, down 24 to Chapman here in the last game of the season. They don't want to end it on a sour note, but Chapman doesn't either, and they have the lead. So if they can keep the mental mistakes to a minimum and keep that offense moving, they've got to run the football this half in order to churn up clock, run the clock out, keep that clock moving. No incomplete passes, no out of bounds. They need to finish this game up in order to maintain that lead with this aggressive Occidental offense.
Occidental's offense needs to be aggressive at this point, finds himself down by 24. Look for Dan Gittleman-Egan deep in Chapman territory. He is very effective as a tight end. That's where he's lined up right now, a big guy down the middle of the field.
Cordell Harris one-on-one out on the right side too. Keep an eye on him.
Everybody's lined up one-on-one. It is man coverage. Up the middle to Dan Gittleman-Egan, his first touchdown of the game. So right as the third quarter gets started, Occidental marches down the field and scores a very quick touchdown. Not as quick as Chapman's in the very first possession when they scored 45 seconds into the game, but Occidental showing we will not go down lightly. We will do what we need to. We see here it was
Egan winning off the line right there. Had a little too much separation from the defender on the defender's part, and his big body too much reach. Quarterback puts it in front of him, and the defender is nowhere close to making that play.
That was Gavin Grady who got a little bit slipped up there. Was expecting Gittleman Egan to go right. He went left and was wide open as the PAT is good. And Occidental only finds himself down by 17. You got to question that. They were down by 24. They go for the PAT. I feel like at this point you need to go for 2, because if you go for 2, you're only down by 2 possessions right now. Whereas if you kick the PAT, you're still down by 3 possessions no matter what. So a little bit of a questionable call there. But nonetheless, it is a score for Occidental, and their defense is going to have to come up big here. They need to make some stops and make them quick. Give Occidental time enough to go down the field and score more points. Occidental getting ready to kick the ball off.
An important thing for Chapman to do right here is to maintain possession.
There's something that's been plugged out on Tim's side. Can somebody check it out? Taking the kickoff now is going to be Ethan Weinstein. Finds some space over on the left side. Good blocking, but eventually brought down at about the 26-yard line by Carlton O'Neill. So Weinstein, a very solid return. It's going to set up pretty good positioning for Chapman.
I have no audio input to my headset. Can you guys hear me otherwise? Like my voice?
Ricky Batista coming out after a spectacular first half. Looking to get his offense going once again. Jake Newman in the backfield. Saw a little bit of him. 2 carries in the first half for 9 yards. Batista's going to take this one-on-one. Jukes around his defender and slips up. He had the defender on skates and had a lot of room, but just could not keep his footing. Christian Clark was the man he had to beat, and just too intimidating, I suppose. Ricky Batista loses his footing, and it's a gain of about 6. So a solid run. It's going to be 2nd and 4. Ricky Batista, the handoff to Jake Newman, who tries to make his way up the field for a gain of about 5, and that's going to move the sticks. First down. So we're not seeing Joe Muti in this game. So in this second half so far, we're seeing Jake Newman, and he has done his job getting that first down, earning some tough yards. It's going to be at the Chapman 37. Slowly but surely, methodically marching their way downfield. Ricky Batista out of the gun. Another handoff to Newman, and Newman gets brought down. Newman was trying to find a hole, but nothing was there. On the stop was Chris Garcia, who's made a number of key tackles for the Tigers in this game. 2nd and 12.
Yeah, we've seen Newman get a lot more snaps this game than he usually does, the freshman running back. You got to think Coach Owens is maybe seeing what he has for next season at this point, with the season winding down and a big lead here in the second half of their last game.
Well, Muti is a junior, so he will have Muti next year. But you have to imagine, what are we going to do if Muti gets hurt, which you obviously don't want it to happen, but you have to have a backup plan in place as this pass out to Isabel goes for only about 4 yards, 3rd and long.
Isabel with another great catch in coverage. Always, always, always with those hands of steel. That guy doesn't drop much.
He doesn't. Absolutely. You said hands of steel, and I was a little confused because he doesn't have stone hands. He has great hands. So I guess a term of endearment by you.
Well, once the ball's in his hands, I guess, they're steel.
Gotcha. Batista out of the shotgun once again. 4 receiver set, 3 to his left. Looks down the middle of the field for Isabel, and a great defensive effort
just as I said
by
it.
the safety, Elijah Duran. It's going to bring up 4th down. And the punting team will come out. This is the first time we've seen the punting unit. Elias Deeb, who's been spectacular on punts all year.
You can see here Ricky Bautista backing up. Sees his first read is Jacob Isabel in double coverage. Had him open, though. Threw it right in front of him, but Isabel can't hold on. Good coverage there. And Chapman's play calling this drive was definitely more conservative than we saw in the first half. Looking like they're trying to control the tempo of this game and run out that clock and control this lead.
A nice kick muffed by Cordell Harris, who caught it at the 17 but has to jump back to the 13-yard line to recover that muffed punt. So Cordell Harris not exactly looking like Cordell Harris in this game, the SCIAC all-purpose yards leader. And Chapman's defense, we talked a lot about them being spectacular, but we didn't think they'd be this good, holding Cordell Harris to under 50 total yards in the first half.
Yeah, Cordell Harris, SCIAC player of the game last week. It's been a different story this week. He just muffed the punt there. He's had a couple broken tackles, and we haven't heard much from him on offense.
We heard his name in that first possession, but they tried a lot of screen passes for him. They just weren't working, and they haven't gone back to that since. Very effective coverage by Chris Williams. Out of the shotgun, hands it off to Chris Toribio. His first carry of the half. It's going to go for about 3, 2nd and 7. In the pregame, we talked about Max Gruber, who is probably going to get a couple more snaps than Toribio. We haven't seen him a lot. You have to wonder, is Occidental keeping Toribio out there to maybe keep Chapman on their toes, like maybe they might run?
Possibly, but you got to think at this point down 24 in the second half. Sorry, down 17 in the second half. They scored at the beginning of the half. That you don't want to run the ball much. You want to save that time on the clock as much as you possibly can and try and walk down and score.
A quick pass out to the right side for Cordell Harris. So as I said it, he gets another pass. This one breaks out for about 8 yards out to the 25-yard line. It's going to be a first down.
Good blocking out there by Ian Bondi to keep Harris free from his original man and get him down the field for a first down.
On the tackle there was a combination of Chris Williams and Miles Allis. Miles Allis made a number of good tackles in this game, stopped a couple of big plays. Usually we're used to seeing Devin Ray and Eddie Favors, the other two linebackers. We're used to seeing them make the big plays, but this time it's been Miles Allis, who, don't get me wrong, he's been spectacular, but he's just been overshadowed by one of the front runners for Defensive Player of the Year who just made that tackle in the SCIAC, Devin Ray. You have to imagine a couple of Chapman Panthers has got to be up for Defensive Player of the Year. They've been so effective. As we see here, Devin Ray, I said earlier in the game he was a vacuum, but like this just right here, he's not going anywhere after he gets touched by Ray. Pass out to the right side, corralled in by Ian Bondi. And he gets taken down by a combination of Miles Allis and Ron Washington.
Yeah, that last run by the running back on the Occidental side shows that they don't want to quite abandon the run. You got to keep the defense guessing. When you're just throwing the ball, it's too predictable, and you get things like that interception that they had near the end of the half.
Another run up the middle by Chris Toribio, and this one's going to break for about 10 yards and bring up another first down for the Tigers.
Toribio showing us why he's been averaging 9 yards a carry almost this whole season. As you can see here on the replay, the offensive line really does the work for him right there, and he just busts through to the third level up by the safety, and he is taken down, but not until he picks up a first down.
A timeout getting called here by Chapman. Coach Owens realizing that Chapman has been allowing a lot of first downs on this drive, and Coach Owens going to talk to his team and try to figure out what they need to do in order to stop this drive from progressing any further. The defensive coordinator for Chapman, David Bishop, he's been the defensive coordinator at Chapman since 1997, almost 20 years, and man, has he been effective. Chapman's defense has been one of the strong points in the past few years. They've been so effective. In fact, in 2014, they had the 43rd ranked defense nationally in Division III.
Yeah, his work as a defensive coordinator has been on showcase today, and we really see why he's been around here since 1997. He has been able to keep his defenses effective through all those years, adapting to all the different offensive styles that have been used and recycled through the years, and it's obvious that he's still able to put together a very effective squad.
Yeah, it's amazing being able to adapt so well As the game changes, you got to change your defensive plan, and that's what he's been able to do. A long pass down the sideline intended for Carlton O'Neill, just out of the reach of Chris Williams, who almost had an interception.
It looked more like it was intended for Chris Williams. If you look at it, that was over the top, just a little too much for the receiver to get to, and it looked like he was really just trying to throw it away.
Got to give a shout out to Chris Williams, another one of these news and documentary students that me and Tim both are. Great guy in the classroom, and he hasn't had an interception since week 3, so really you have to imagine that he was looking forward to getting that one, but couldn't corral it that time. Handoff to Ram Toribio, and he gets brought down by Ben Waters, the defensive end, who has been a stud so far this year.
You can see here, number 7 just gets back in there, doesn't fall for the read option, knows that Scott is not going to take it, and he's able to get the running back down for a loss.
Ben Waters is the absolute definition of an athlete. Actually, in his first year in college, he played defensive end for Fresno State. He's from San Jose, that's where I'm from. And he left because he wasn't getting the playing time he deserved, and now he's really showing that he deserved it as Scott gets sacked in the backfield by 4 different Panthers. Give a quarter sack to each one of them. Wow, everybody got in the backfield there.
Yeah, Scott has had a lot of time to throw the ball today, but not the case there. Chapman brings a little bit of extra heat. You can see right here, Waters comes in. The whole defensive line really gets penetration in there and just brings the quarterback down for a huge loss. Scott not happy with his offensive line.
Yeah, there were 3 offensive linemen in that last frame we saw and 4 Chapman defenders. If you do the math, that's not going to work very well for you. So the first punt of the second half for Occidental. It's up high to Jacob Isabel, who takes it and finds some space down the middle. Gets around some more Occidental defenders. He has some space down the sideline and gets kicked out of bounds by Carlton O'Neill, the last line of defense. What a punt return for Isabel. That's the first one we've seen from him. Usually he's been Weinstein, but as soon as Isabel comes in, gets a huge return of about 40 yards on the punt.
As you can see here, the punt comes up, and just the return team making great blocks all around for Isabel, and he's reading the field, reading his blocks, staying on the right side, and he comes down the sideline and makes the Panthers fans a little bit nervous there. We missed that part where he tried to stay on his feet, but he actually, it looked like his knee got tweaked a little bit there trying to stay up, so hopefully Isabel's going to be all right.
Ian Craddock comes back into the game. Nice block set up for Vacker, who's going to gain about 9 yards, 2nd and 1. The referees are going to mark it at the 8-yard line. And they're going to call it 1st and goal. Isabel's still out. The handoff to Muti finds some space and gets to about the 4-yard line before getting hit hard. On the stop there was Marcus McDuffie. We haven't seen a lot from Marcus McDuffie, but he is definitely a player that you should not take for granted if you're Chapman. He's the junior from Rancho Balago. He won the CIF championship at Rancho Verde High School, and he actually received a letter from Barbara Boxer when they won that game. She was ecstatic for him, and like whenever you receive a letter from Barbara Boxer, that's definitely a highlight of your life.
Definitely, for sure. You getting a
Diano Pachote gets in for the score. Ricky Batista moving around the defender who almost got a hand up there. Diano Pachote breaking 2 tackles and gets another touchdown.
Pachote, the big guy, usually known for his power running skills, but showing us there he can also catch the ball out of the backfield.
So Diano Pachote gets the score and puts Chapman up once again by 24, pending the extra point.
Pachote comes out, that play action threw the defense off just enough, and he shows his power running skills right there. Pairs it with those nice hands, and he gets into the end zone for Chapman's 5th passing touchdown of the game.
The 5th passing touchdown to 3 different people. Yeah. Isabel, Weinstein, and Pachote now. And Pachote is one of those few running backs. You don't see a lot of running backs like him. He's more like a fullback.
Yeah, definitely. That's usually his role in the Panthers offense, is to make those short yardage pickups. You'll see him rumble for big chunks of yards sometimes when he's able to break that first tackle. And Pachote, definitely a talented player. Chapman showing us that they've got plenty of guys on offense that can make plays. Isabel's caught a touchdown. Weinstein, of course, been making plays. And even Craddock and a couple other receivers, and of course Pachote, have been making plays all over the field for this offense today. It's been wide open.
You got to take what the defense gives you. That's exactly what Batista and company have been doing. That's Deanna Pachote's second touchdown of the year, and the first one was a little bit of an odd one. It came in the very first game of the season against Trinity off of a blocked punt. So good to see him get involved in the offense and get in the end zone.
Yeah, Pachote's showing his versatility with that first touchdown. He's able to play special teams, and he's out here playing running back and fullback for this Panthers offense. It's run heavy, but they're showing us today that they can throw the ball, and that Ricky Bautista has an arm that he wants, and he's saying, hello world, I can throw the football too.
Definitely very smart by Ricky Batista, actually, too. We saw somebody get a hand up there and almost block the pass. If Batista hadn't gotten rid of it, he would have been sacked. So he knew that he was about to get sacked, just dumped it off to his dump receiver, which was Pachote, running a flat from out of the backfield.
Yeah, that check down route is really important for quarterbacks. You got to be aware of where your check down guy is going to be. And we got a big spin move out there on the field right now.
Nice spin move by Carlton O'Neill. Not going to get out of the way of Ben Waters, though. I mentioned Ben Waters, just all-around great athlete. Almost played for Fresno State, decided to leave. He actually played 4 sports in high school: basketball, volleyball, track, and of course football. And he was very effective at all 4 of them. So he's fast, he's big, he can read offenses well, and he is very aware of what's going on behind him, and that is a deadly combination. Makes Ben Waters one of the best players on this Chapman defense. Ben Waters almost getting to the quarterback there, but he dumps it off to Rom Toribio. On the tackle was Devin Ray. Chris Rom Toribio.
Rom Toribio showing his speed a little bit on that play too. He actually does run track for Occidental.
He is very fast. We saw that on one of the first plays in this second half, where he broke for a run of about 40 yards. Didn't see a lot from him in the first half, but finally saw him break one of his big plays that he's known for. Dominic Luca making the stop there. Looked like it was going to be a double pass. Carlton O'Neill looked like he was supposed to pass that one, but Ian Bondi not open. Great coverage by Ron Washington, who has played a spectacular game defensively. I mean, you're not seeing it. He's broken up one pass, but you're not seeing Ron Washington make plays because they're just not throwing at him, because he's been covering his men so well.
Yep. Here comes the replay. We got this guy just tried to throw the ball, but the poor guy had nobody open, and he just had to take the loss.
We're going to see a timeout here by Occidental. Their first timeout of the second half, with 3 minutes and 50 seconds left here in the third quarter. We will take a short break, and we will be right back with the remainder of this game. Chapman 47, Occidental 23. You're watching CSBN. Brian Scott out of the shotgun. Haven't seen much from him in this second half. He's going to pass it, and it's a little swing pass to Rom Toribio, who gets to about the 44-yard line. We'll see where they mark it, very close to the first down.
Looks like they're going to mark him a little bit short. Rom Toribio fighting for extra yards there. You can see he catches the swing pass, designed swing pass, comes out here, and they're just able to drag him down just short. Looks like his knee is going to be down, but the Occidental Tigers are going to go for it anyways.
On the tackle there was Miles Allis and Devin Kelly. Rom Toribio tried to squeeze in between the two of them, but you can't squeeze in between Allis. He's too good. Brian Scott, the pass to Cordell Harris, who gets around the spin, and a nice tackle by Ben Waters, who made his way from the defensive line all the way back to make that stop.
And Cordell Harris finally making an impact on this game for his team, catching that pass on 4th down, moving the chains for the Occidental Tigers. They really have no choice. Every single spot on the field at this point is 4-down territory for them.
You said it. Brian Scott looking for his man. He finds him. On the catch there was Dan Gittleman-Egan.
Throwing to his
short
big
gain
guy right there. Definitely trusting the fact that he outsizes the guy covering him. See, he throws it right into his chest. The big guy just brings it in. Gittleman-Egan, again, plays tight end and wide receiver. Very versatile and a large receiver at that. Tough to cover on those curl routes.
We have man coverage across the board. 3 receivers to Scott's right, 1 receiver to his left. It's Miles Allis against Amici. He was looking to his left, and Brian Scott spinning out of 2 tackles and ends up throwing the ball away. Very effective, very heads-up play by Scott. On the tackle there, or attempted tackle, was Andrew Deacon and Austin
Ben
Pica,
Waters
who
getting
got to
in
the
there
quarterback
right
very
at the
quickly. But really,
beginning.
every defender, every member of the defensive line was close to getting a sack there, but Brian Scott refusing to go down. Four receiver set. Out of the shotgun. We haven't seen the quarterback go under center so far this game. The handoff to Rom Toribio, it's a fake, a read option, and Brian Scott gets brought down immediately. On the tackle was none other than the man himself, Devin Ray.
Now you mentioned he hasn't been under center this whole game. A lot of offenses now at the high school and college level are transitioning to never going under center. This read option offense is really only runnable out of the shotgun, and you see guys like Jared Goff of the St. Louis Rams. He got to the NFL, never taken a snap under center in his entire football career.
Maybe that's the reason why he hasn't started for most of the season for the Rams.
Probably. Lots of people here in LA not too happy about that, but hopefully for Scott, being under center doesn't seem to be a problem for the Chapman defense. Whether he's in shotgun or under center, they're going to get to the quarterback.
Brian Scott gets sacked this time, and this time Pica is going to get there, not letting him throw it away that time. Give a half sack to Pica and Deacon, who each got to the quarterback at almost the same time. It's tough to bring out Scott. Scott is a big man. He is 6'2", 220, and a quarterback. So that just shows how effective he is, and he's really got it all. Size, speed, throwing arm, and the vision.
And he's had the coaching as well. We mentioned earlier that the offensive coordinator here at Occidental actually was the coach of Marcus Mariota at the Hawaiian High School St. Louis High, and we all know where Marcus Mariota is now. So Scott has had the pedigree, and he has the size and the physical attributes to be an effective quarterback, and he's shown that through his top-tier SCIAC play this year.
Definitely. Another top-tier man, Ricky Batista, trying to throw it down the sideline. He finds Jacob Isabel, who makes the catch at about the 29-yard line. That play is going to go for a very large gain. 57 seconds left here in the third quarter. Chapman leads by 24.
The key part of this play right here, you didn't see it, but the running back is able to make a cut block on the defensive end, opening up Bautista to throw to Isabel down here, who actually gets both feet in, which isn't required in college, but he did it just for extra measure, showing his extra awareness.
A nice spin move by Isabel, and a nice juke as well. Gets around a couple defenders and just not able to get around the last line of defense. Making the tackle there was Christian Clark.
Isabel, the first read here, just beats his guy. That's pretty much it. He's shown that he's speedy, but he also can break tackles in this game.
He's had another very good stiff arm in this game on a different defender, but now two of them can relate to each other as they have both been behind the tough hand of Jacob Isabel. This another corner pass for Isabel. No good, just out of the reach.
Opportunities missed like that are painful for football teams. Less painful when you're up 47-23, but painful nonetheless. If this score was closer, that would have been a crucial missed play right there. Bautista's got to connect with Isabel on that pass.
That was a very well-run route by Isabel. He was working with Weinstein. They both set a pick for each other and opened up a lot of space for the junior receiver. In the backfield for one of the first times, not his first time, but for one of the first times in this half, it's Brandon Medina who breaks free and gets a nice 10-yard touchdown. Brandon Medina. He's usually the goal line back, but this time decides to take it out from about the 10-yard line and gets a touchdown. Excuse me, that's Darren Nishi with his first touchdown of the game, of the season. Darren Nishi, a 5'8 junior out of Sacramento. He's 185, but played like he was 200. Broke one tackle in the backfield, and nobody was in sight for the rest of that run. The extra point from Alfonso is good, and Chapman goes up by 31.
Occidental showing why their run defense has given up over 300 yards per game this year. Just manhandled at the line by Chapman on that play.
With 4.9 seconds left here in the third quarter, Chapman has extended their lead even further and currently lead by more than 3 decades of points. Alfonso back to kick it off, and this will probably be the final play of the third quarter. And really, Chapman didn't keep up to their 20 points a quarter theme, so they might not reach 80, but nonetheless, this is by far the most points they've scored in the game all year. Taking a knee back in the end zone for a touchback is Carlton O'Neill. Occidental will start off this drive from the 25-yard line.
Chapman actually achieving above the average points that Occidental has given up this year, and that's almost quite unexpected from an offense that only averaged 19 points a game this year.
Yeah, as we mentioned, they have the second fewest amount of points. Chapman does. So it's good to see them take advantage of a defense that's known for giving up a lot of yards and a lot of points. It's good to see that they can do that and they can take advantage of mismatches.
Yeah, Cordell Harris and Ethan Weinstein been a matchup to watch all day long, and Ethan Weinstein been winning that matchup all day.
The play action by Scott gets it to Bondi. Bondi gets taken down on the play. A nice tackle there.
That's the end of the third quarter.
That'll take us to the end of the third quarter. Chapman leads by a score of 54-23. Matt Gudridge on the tackle there. The teams will switch sides as we take a look at these SCIAC games that are going on around the rest of the league.
Laverne and Whittier looks like it's yet to start. Pomona Pitzer and Claremont Mudd Scripps. Pomona Pitzer's high-powered offense that looked in true form against Chapman last time that they played is down 17-6 to Claremont Mudd Scripps. And Cal Lutheran is currently leading Redlands, who is the #1 scorer in SCIAC. So that is quite a surprise as well.
Not only are they leading them, but Redlands is undefeated in SCIAC play this year. So maybe pulling a little bit of a Patriots, messing up that perfect record perhaps. Tim's a Patriots fan, just had to put it in his face there.
A little bit of a sore spot.
A run up the right side. It's going to gain about 7, 2nd and 3. That was Chris Rom-Toribio. So a very up-tempo offense being implemented by Occidental. They still think that they can win this one, and with their offense, who knows? Anything is possible. Brian Scott checks off his first read. Nobody's open. He just throws it to the sideline for Carlton O'Neill, who's going to lose a yard. It's going to be 3rd and 4. We see a couple players who haven't gotten a lot of playing time for Chapman coming into the game. One of the cornerbacks coming into the game is Noah Deneen, the 6-foot sophomore from right here in Orange. He's had a couple good plays earlier in the season, but hasn't seen a huge snap count. He's going to get a good opportunity here, lining up against Mark Wallohan. This play pushes for about 8 yards. It's going to be a first down for Occidental. That was a pass to Carlton O'Neill. O'Neill targeted on 2 straight passes. One of them a broken play, though. A nice shovel pass to Chris Romtribio. We saw this one break for a lot of yards earlier. This time, it still goes for a good chunk of yardage, about 10 yards, and that's going to be another first down.
You know, lots of teams would give up down by this much here in the last game of the season, but Romtribio catches this shovel pass right here, breaks a couple tackles, and stays on his feet as long as he possibly can, fighting for extra yards, trying desperately to keep his team in the game.
Romtribio, one of those players who at any moment can break free for a touchdown. Brian Scott shakes off the safety, tosses it downfield off of the fingertips of Ian Bondi.
Bondi couldn't quite pull that one in. In order to come back, you have to be able to complete those types of passes. Scott just a little too much arm on that throw right there, and he's not able to connect with his receiver, Bondi.
No huddle needed for Occidental. They are going right to it. Brian Scott looks left, looks right, runs to the right, on the run, down to Dan Gittleman-Egan, his man for the game. Seems like whenever Brian Scott finds himself in a little bit of a pickle in the pocket, has to make some time, he finds Gittleman-Egan.
Yeah, when that check down's not open, it's always nice to have a big guy running around on the field for you to be able to toss it off to.
And as we see on the sideline right now, Lucas O'Connor is warming up. We haven't seen much play from him this year, and that would be absolutely awesome to see him come in on senior day, his final game at Chapman. He has been such a great asset to this team in practice, been working with the rest of the team, making everybody else better. That's what great players do.
That was actually Ethan Weinstein there on the tackle. Looks like here at the end of the season, he's put in the work on offense. Coach Owens has let him go back to his natural habitat on defense and have some fun.
Pass out to the right side from Scott to Ian Bondi for Ian Bondi's second touchdown of the game. And right now it just seems like Occidental is trying to give themselves some pride. Pending the extra point, they will reach 30 points for the game.
You can see here, looks to his first read, throws it too much behind him, and the receiver not quite able to get across the goal line. The quarterback's got to throw his receiver into the end zone on that route, but it's also on the receiver to be aware of the pylon and get just past it so his quarterback can sneak the ball in right underneath so where only he can catch it.
Another timeout being called by Occidental as the play clock was winding down. Only 3 seconds left when he called that. To realize that his offense was not set up, they're going to take a short little break and try to figure out what they want to do to try to get this 2-point conversion. So Chapman looking to stop the 2-point conversion, keep Occidental at 29 points. That would be a 25-point difference and keep this game out of reach, out of a 3-possession reach. Other games going on in Chapman today. Swimming and diving. I'm a swimmer myself. It's against Pomona and Whittier, but it's at Whittier. cross country, the NCAA Division III Regionals at Salem, Oregon. That's going on today. Good luck to them. Men's water polo, they played against Pomona. And men's soccer in the NCAA tournament is going to take on Texas Dallas at San Antonio. Good luck to all the other Chapman athletics teams out there. No luck needed for Chapman as they have a very big lead in the fourth quarter. 12 minutes and 12 seconds left here in the fourth. The two-point conversion attempt is going to be Carlton O'Neill trying to pass it, and he's just going to have to throw it away. The intended target was Brian Scott, the usual quarterback. But some great pressure there and nice defense by Ethan Weinstein is going to keep that out of the end zone.
Ethan Weinstein not falling for the trick play there. He's been a benefit of some trick plays himself this year. I think he actually caught a touchdown right in a couple of the first games on a double pass.
Yeah, double pass. Ian Craddock, I believe, was the one who threw that ball. Ian Craddock, a former quarterback, showed off his arm there. So Occidental does not reach the 30-point mark. They are down by 25. And it is going to take nothing short of a miracle for them to come back in this game.
Chapman is definitely going to be watching out for the onside kick here. Be interesting to see what Occidental does. Are they just going to take the loss, or are they going to keep fighting and try and pull something out of their back pocket with an onside kick?
It looks like Chapman is preparing for an attempted onside kick. They have 6 people up front waiting for some sort of trickery from the Tigers. It will not be an onside kick, more of a squib. Isabel recovers it off the first bounce, tries to bounce to the outside, showing off some speed. Jukes tries to get around some people and eventually just goes out of bounds at his own 28-yard line. Give him a return of 7 yards.
And that squib kick right there, they were really just, the kicker put a little too much leg on it, but they were really trying to put it right in the open spot between the first and second levels on the kickoff team and hope that their guys are fast enough to get down there to the ball. Didn't happen, and it ended up going to the guy that they did not want it to go to, Jacob Isabel.
And in fact, Lucas O'Connor making an appearance in this game with Jake Newman to his right. A 2 tight end set, the jumbo package as they like to call it. This is a handoff to Jake Newman. Tries to get to the outside and find some space, but eventually gets brought down on the play after a 4-yard pickup. On the tackle there was Eamon McNeil, one of the best defenders on that Tigers team. We have a player down on the field, the 3rd Occidental injury we've seen so far. He is still down. The trainer's coming in, trying to stretch him out, see what the issue is. Hopefully he can get up and get out on his own power. So Jake Newman and Lucas O'Connor, the 2 on screen for just a second ago. They came into this game. Jake Newman had a little bit of snaps before that. And it's good to see him get some opportunities in his freshman year. So Adam Cole gets off on his own power, and that's good to see. We haven't seen any serious injuries so far in this game, and that's always a plus. Lucas O'Connor, another handoff to Newman, who tries to bounce inside the tackles for a gain of about 4. Once again, it's going to be 3rd and 2. So it's good to see Chapman in their final game of the season. They get a win.
Yep, they executed on the crucial plays. Missed a couple like that throw to Isabel there in the end zone from Bautista, but he connected with Weinstein and Isabel all over the field, including Pichotti and a couple other guys. This offense was true to form today, or not true to form today, as they scored 54 as opposed to their normal 19, taking advantage
Darren
of
Nishi
that
right there.
weak
He gets a
Occidental
big
defense.
chunk of yards, about 18 on the run. So Darren Nishi making another appearance. Nishi already with a touchdown in this game. And the game is not over. But Chapman bringing in Lucas O'Connor, one of those players. Just want to get him some playing time in this. His final day, senior day, he got honored before the game. And he's going to make his first pass since coming in. And it is complete to Dominic Vacker. I had to pause a little bit there as Vacker bobbled it a little bit.
Vacker, another guy who's been benefiting from the offensive explosion from the Panthers today. He's had, I think, 3 catches so far, and we don't usually see him featured in the game plan.
He has had a couple of big plays. But as we see here, a circus catch by Vacker, and eventually brought down on the play by Robert Twyman, making his second tackle of the game. Here's Darren Nishi once again trying to bounce it out around the linebacker. He's not going to get anywhere, though. A short gain of about 4. So almost every running back has been featured in this game. Jake Newman, Deanna Pachode, Darren Nishi. We have not, and Joe Muti, of course. We have not seen Brandon Medina, though, and that's been a little bit questionable. Not sure what's going on there. Chapman leading 54-29, 9 minutes, 37 seconds. Another handoff to Nishi. He goes up the middle for a solid gain of about 7. That's going to be a first down.
And the Panthers taking advantage of that Occidental run defense that has allowed over 300 yards per game this year. You see they just keep moving the ball down the field even when they have their backups in. This Occidental run defense and their holes should help the Chapman Panthers wind down this game by running the football.
You know, Lucas O'Connor comes in, and you want to see him get a chance to show off his skills. You want to see him pass the ball, but it's just more effective and probably smarter for the coaching staff to run the ball and wind this clock down.
Yeah, the good coaches know how to balance the desires of their players in a game like this with logic. You know, you want to finish the game out strong, you want to run the clock out, but you also want to give your senior quarterback a chance to throw a couple passes, and you keep an eye out for Coach Owens calling a couple plays for him to get a chance to do that, but he's also going to stick to his game plan of finishing this game out.
O'Connor is not a slouch when it comes to speed, maybe a read option in his future in these next few plays. Once again in the jumbo package, one receiver on his right, it's Ethan Weinstein. The handoff to Nishi. A linebacker breaks through, but a nice cut to the inside gets another big gain of about 4 yards. So Darren Nishi has really been surprising. He's been impressing me so far this game. A lot of linebackers and defensive linemen are breaking through into the backfield before Nishi can get to the offensive line, but he's been able to get around, read where the defenders are, and get positive yards when really he shouldn't be.
Yeah, Nishi showing tremendous vision looking up the field and finding those cutback lanes. That's really on the Occidental linebackers. They're over pursuing towards the original gap that Nishi is going for, and then when he cuts back, they're nowhere to be found.
O'Connor out of the gun once again, hands it off to Nishi. Nishi trying to work for that first down, and he's going to get it right at the 15-yard line and move the chains. And a flag comes in late on the play from the referee. We'll see what the penalty is. Still discussing it. Here we go.
Dead ball. Personal foul, number 55. 15-yard penalty. First down.
So committing the foul there was Alec Cohn, the sophomore offensive lineman.
You can see Cohn gets decked right there and not happy about that. Takes a shot there at the end, and tempers tend to flare here at the end. Scoreboard is indicative of the heated situation between the Occidental and Chapman players right now.
The player that Cohn shoved right there was Eamon McNeil. McNeil has the most tackles on this Occidental team so far this game. He's also broken up a pass. He has been very effective. Lucas O'Connor getting another chance to pass, running to his right. Down deep into the end zone, underthrown, and just knocked out of the hands of Ethan Weinstein. On the coverage was Robert Twyman.
Good job by Twyman right there. Pushing Weinstein out of bounds after the ball gets tipped up, not allowing him to make a second effort at the catch.
And Weinstein a little bit upset after that play. Thought there should have been defensive pass interference as Twyman did not turn around to play the ball. But no contact was made. So really the referees have their hands tied. They can't call anything. It's going to bring up second down from Chapman from the 30-yard line. A handoff to Nishi. Nishi breaks to the outside, and he is surrounded by 3 Occidental Tigers. And he will be brought down behind the line of scrimmage for a loss of 6, 3rd and 16.
Nishi trying to find the cutback lane that time. But it's not there. The last play that Weinstein was looking for pass interference right there. It looked like there was a little bit of shove in there, but it was, the refs are going to let it slide here near the end of the game.
Well, you know the old saying, it's not illegal if the refs don't see it. And a very good display of that right there. So from the 36-yard line, Lucas O'Connor looking to lead his team to a first down on 3rd and very long. And the penalty marker coming down onto the field. So Lucas O'Connor committing the delay of game penalty right there. He saw the blitz coming, tried to alter his pass protection. Just waiting a little bit too long. So now it's 3rd and even longer, 3rd and 22.
The key thing here is to not be dumb, take care of the football, and don't turn it over here with little time left in this game. And Weinstein!
What a pass from Lucas O'Connor to Ethan Weinstein. Right over the shoulder. Weinstein beats his man and gets his 4th score of the game. And another penalty marker coming in very late. Maybe excessive celebration.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be excessive celebration, but you got to think Ethan Weinstein in his senior year, a 4-touchdown performance, playing a position he just changed to this season. I think he deserves a little bit of celebration.
Absolutely. If anybody does, it is definitely Ethan Weinstein. So Weinstein taking advantage of the 6', 200-pound defensive back out of Simi Valley, Chase Holiday. Lucas O'Connor trusted his wide receiver, knew he had a long way to go, and decided, hey, Weinstein's also a senior. I'm going to get him an even better performance. And wow, what a throw, what a catch, what a play by Chapman.
Stood in and threw that ball right over the top for Weinstein. Perfect pass, perfect placement. Good pass by the senior, Lucas O'Connor.
Just under 6 minutes left here in the 4th quarter. And as the nail wasn't in the coffin yet, it is now for Occidental. That puts Chapman over 60 points on the day.
Yeah, if you're Coach Owens now, you're looking at your team, you're saying, all right, guys, let's be smart. They're going to start throwing punches. They're going to start taking cheap shots. You've got to be careful about that. It's late in the game, and any team down by this much in their final game of the season is going to start taking shots, and the winning team always has to be smart about that. Don't fight back, stay disciplined, and finish the game out strong.
And we see there a huge embrace by Ethan Weinstein and Lucas O'Connor. Emotions have got to be running high in this, their final game, and what better way to go out for the both of them. Lucas O'Connor's first touchdown pass of the season. So the excessive celebration penalty will be enforced on this kickoff. Weinstein did a little bit of a country line dance, and that was considered too much for the refs to handle. But if anybody can get it deep down the field at the 20-yard line, it's Lucas Alfonso. He has got a cannon for a leg. It's a boomer. It's going to get all the way to the other 20, past the other 20, in fact. The return by Carlton O'Neill gets to about the 40-yard line. He's still going, but eventually gets brought down on the play. On the tackle there for Chapman was Shannon Estrin, the junior defensive back out of Fontana, California, making his first tackle of the game.
You got to be a little bit surprised that you don't see Cordell Harris back there returning that kick. He's their main return guy. He had a kick return touchdown last year, but this guy takes it up the field, breaks a few tackles, and the Chapman coverage team had a little bit of a tough time bringing him down.
Well, it is tough to take down Carlton O'Neill. Carlton O'Neill, he's only 6', 160, but he runs like he is 6'5", 230. He runs with his head down all the time, always looking to truck people who aren't tackling properly. Pass from Brian Scott over to the left side. It's Amici. Amici gets brought down by Eddie Favors.
Amici finding a hole in the coverage right there, and his quarterback's able to get him the ball, and he hangs on. Unfortunately, this late in the game, I don't think that's going to be able to help them very much.
And from the get-go, it seemed like Occidental's offensive plan was a little bit iffy. Lots of screen passes, lots of swing passes like this one out to Rom Trubio, which breaks for a couple of yards. Penalty flag on the play. But just ineffective, and that's not something we expected to see from a team that is first in SCIAC in offense.
Yeah, you got to wonder why they played so conservatively at the beginning. Chapman's D-line wasn't getting much of a rush down on their quarterback, Scott. Brian Scott is a talented quarterback, able to push the ball down the field, and they did not take advantage of that factor early in the game. Instead, they're dumping off, playing conservatively, and that downhill, fast, aggressive Panthers defense was able to hold them in check long enough to get a large lead.
5 minutes, 20 seconds left here in the final quarter. A little dump pass off to his receiver, who finds some space and is going to gain about 12 yards for a first down. Making the catch was Derek Potzinger. Haven't seen much from the 5'10" senior running back out of Santa Cruz. He makes his first catch, and that brings up a first down. So maybe Occidental, Brian Scott and crew, they're trying to get another touchdown, get over that 30-point mark, and keep it at a respectable score. Another shovel pass to Potzinger, who gains another solid chunk of yardage, about 7, 2nd and 3.
Occidental moving the ball, not giving up quite just yet, but you can tell that they're not taking those deep shots. They're trying to get out of here.
Keeping their A-team out on the field. Looking to his right for Bondi, just out of his reach.
Look for a late hit penalty on that. It's not there. Good call by the referee, in my opinion. The defensive back was already on his way there.
That was Pranav Iyer seeing some of his first snaps of the season. He's going to take a break after that play. So some nice defense there. Amici, Harris, and Gittleman Egan. The 3 men on Scott's left. Ian Bondi on his right. Only one running back in the backfield. Dumps it off for Harris. Harris gets around a couple Chapman defenders and eventually gets brought down past the first down marker at the 9-yard line, 1st and goal.
That was good discipline right there by the backside defender, making sure to close down the other side of Harris while he goes to the east side of the field. But when he goes to cut back to the west, the defense is right there. They're able to wrap him up and keep him corralled for that gain that he had already gotten.
Kurt Calamani on the tackle there, the sophomore linebacker. Scott looking to pass, looking to his left. Nowhere to throw it to. Offensive line, a lot of protection, finds his receiver in the end zone. That's Amici, once again, his 2nd touchdown of the game.
Amici, 2 big catches on this game, in this drive, actually, to keep them going. Gets open for his quarterback right here, and Occidental able to score some points here at the end, but just not quite enough.
It looked like Scott was
have 61 points right now.
Looked like Scott was eyeing down Amici for quite some time. As the defense, you got to react to where the quarterback is looking. You got to be able to cover the receiver in the quarterback's line of vision. You got to give a lot of credit to the offensive line for Occidental there, as their 2-point conversion is good to Dan Gittleman Egan. Scott had so much time on that play. His first option wasn't open, so he looked to his second. That takes some time. Second option wasn't open. Looked to his third to his fourth, and finally, after his 4th option, he finally found Amici open in the end zone.
Yeah,
that is just some good blocking.
You got to think that Panthers defensive line is getting a little tired here at the end. They've been struggling to get to Brian Scott all afternoon, and here in the second half, they put in the work. They've gotten to him, I think, 3 times, and they've got to be a little bit tired at this point. And with a 61-point lead, there's room for error.
They do have 61 points, and who knows, maybe Chapman will try to march down and get another score. Doesn't look like they're going to reach 70, as a touchdown would just put them at 68. Devin Kelly is going to be returning this kick. So we've seen a lot of Weinstein and Isabel on returns. We have not seen Devin Kelly, and it looks like Occidental is actually lining up for an onside attempt here. It will be an onside attempt, and the hands teams gets it. Dominic Vacker recovers that onside kick.
Now that's exactly the bounce you want from an onside kick, right there popping up in the air to give the recovery team a chance to get in there and smack the guy trying to catch it right in the mouth, but they weren't able to get there in time, and Vacher comes across from the far side of the field and is able to catch the onside kick and get down to maintain possession for the Panthers.
Take a look at the other scores around the SCIAC. Redlands has made quite a comeback and are almost tied with Cal Lutheran. A field goal would put them up and keep that undefeated season alive. Pomona Pitzer and Claremont Mudscripts in another heated contest. Pomona Pitzer making a comeback as well, down by 2 only. Here's a handoff. That's not going to go very far, only about 5 yards, 2nd and 5. Brandon Medina getting his very first carry of the game, and we've seen them all now. Every single running back on Chapman's roster.
Yeah, Coach Owens showing his stable of running backs off, and you know, you got to admire that. They have plenty of talent there in the backfield, and the best thing about that is when one guy gets tired, it's about the next guy up.
You always hear that, the next guy up. When somebody gets injured or somebody gets tired, you got to be able to provide a nice little backup and provide a nice little rest, knowing that you're not losing much in that position. Another handoff to Brandon Medina, who goes up the middle for a gain of 4.5, 3rd and inches.
You know, that's the advantage of all your running backs having playing experience this season and being used, is because they see holes like this, they're able to charge forward for a gain and keep this clock rolling along as Chapman tries to close out this game.
Medina got tackled from behind on the play by Anthony Stanley. Stanley, one of those players who has shown signs of brilliance when he's come in games earlier in the season. He's only a sophomore, so look for him to be a staple of Occidental's defense for future seasons. Another rush by Brandon Medina goes up the middle for a gain of about 3, 1st down. 2 minutes, 10 seconds left here in the game, and the clock just keeps ticking.
Medina reading the offensive line perfectly again. Offensive line making a hole for him to run through. He picks up the 1st down, and this clock keeps ticking down on the final game of Chapman's season.
Under 2 minutes left here. Every single player on that Chapman sideline has got to be ecstatic and very happy with how they played in this game. Another handoff to Brandon Medina, who just goes into the teeth of the defense. That's not going to go anywhere, but it does set the pace. 2nd and 8. Occidental still does have a timeout, but I would be surprised if they used it. After a game like this, all you want to do is get back, study the film, figure out what you did wrong, and next year, come back out and beat them for how bad they beat you last year. 1 receiver set, 2 tight ends. Brandon Medina to his left and Devin Kelly, the wide receiver. Another handoff to Medina. Medina finds some space, tries to hurdle over a defender. He does and gets to about the 30-yard line. It's going to bring up 3rd down.
Medina taking another power run right up the right side, making a little bit of a hurdle there. Really just ends up stepping on the guy a little bit. But props to him, continues to move the ball forward.
Using that player on the ground as a little bit of a leverage, perhaps. Lucas O'Connor once again hands it off to Medina once again for a big gain, his longest run of the day. 7 yards.
Medina picking up that last first down. Chapman really doesn't need any more yards at this point. They can take a knee anytime they want.
The clock will wind down here. 7, 6, 5, 4. You can do the rest of the counting. And Chapman takes the win 61-37. And what a better way than going out in this, the final game for so many great Panther careers. The two teams will shake hands. It was a hard-fought game. Chapman's offense just too strong that game, and something we didn't expect to see was Occidental only score 37. But Chapman, as we said before the game, allowed the second least amount of points in the SCIAC behind only first place Redlands, and they proved why today. Very effective on both sides of the ball. Had a big punt return as well, so really all three facets of this football game were good for Chapman. Ben Waters, Ethan Weinstein, Devin Kelly, Lorenzo Marks, Alden Quartz, Eddie Favors, Miles Allis, Devin Ray, Jacob Eakin, Eric Gonzalez, Dominic Luca, Eddie Waters. Thank you so much for great Chapman careers. You played one heck of a game and had great careers at Chapman.
You know, a game like this is just a perfect way for Chapman to end this season. A little bit disappointing, only able to finish one game above 500, and they did not make the tournament this year, but leaving a sweet taste in their mouth as their seniors get sent off with a great game. Waters had quite a performance. Ethan Weinstein, 4 touchdowns, and this team is quite ecstatic about the finish of this game. Running over here to the students section to celebrate.
Yeah, without a doubt. I don't think there's any question here that the player of the game was Ethan Weinstein. Received touchdowns from 2 different quarterbacks, 3 from Batista, and 1 an amazing snow cone catch in his fingertips from Lucas O'Connor, who that was only his second possession of the game. Great to see Lucas O'Connor get a touchdown as well. And geez, Chapman from the very beginning, when they scored that 1 touchdown 45 seconds into the game, you knew it was going to be special. You knew that they had their seniors on their mind.
Yep, you know, the saying goes defense wins championships, and the defensive team here was able to pull off the win against the offensive team. And that really shows that when your defense can't hang with another team's offense, then it's really tough for even a high-powered offense to keep your team in the game. They scored 37 today. That's not a shabby showing by the Occidental offense by any means.
Yeah, normally when you score 37, you expect to win by 10 or 17 even, but this time Chapman just too tough, being able to read Occidental's defense so well. Chapman only had to punt the ball once this game. Occidental punted it 3 times and threw an interception. That's big for Batista, not throwing any interceptions. He hasn't been throwing a lot of interceptions this year, but no turnovers by Chapman on the day. And they often say when you win the turnover battle, you will win the game. The most positive possessions normally wins the game, and Chapman, without a doubt, had the most positive possessions.
Yeah, Chapman making the least mistakes this time around, executing on all those big opportunities, except for just a couple. But when you're winning, when you put up 61, you can get away with a couple errors. They made some great plays on offense, receivers catching the ball all over the place, and Bautista putting the ball on the money. Totally comfortable in this game. Very obvious that he was comfortable. They were able to keep him on his feet, just like I said they needed to do in the beginning of the game, and look what happened. Bautista able to throw for 5 touchdowns.
When you give Batista time, he's going to make you pay because time is money. On the other side, Brian Scott got sacked 4 times on the day. And there were a lot of times when he should have been sacked but was able to get the ball off. So a lot of pressure being applied by Chapman. That's something we didn't see from a lot of teams against Occidental this year. Because Occidental, so good on offense because Brian Scott, one of the best quarterbacks in SCIAC, just has enough time to look around the field, find his man, find his second man if he needs to, and get it to them. But Chapman, Dominic Luca, Austin Piken, Ben Waters, and the trinity of linebackers, Allis, Favors, and Ray were so effective in getting into the backfield and putting pressure on the running backs and quarterbacks.
Yeah, Chapman able to get to the quarterback 4 times, but he was upright through the entire first half, I believe, and that is a bummer that they couldn't take an advantage of the time that he had there in the backfield. You talk about Occidental's defense and giving up 61 points to the Chapman Panthers, who are only averaging 19 through the whole season, is pretty rough. But their defensive coordinator is in his first year as their defensive coordinator. And 2015, he was their inside linebackers coach. And before that, he was coaching at Claremont Mudd Scripps. And he was actually a high school defensive coordinator. So while this guy tries to find his bearings here at Occidental, Will Gilmore, their defensive coordinator, hopefully for him, he can continue to help them improve and bring out a better squad next year.
Absolutely. Defense, without a doubt, you have to think is going to be a focus point, a focal point in their game plan for the upcoming season. You see some of the seniors there taking a picture with some of their trainers and coaches. That's Weinstein there kneeling in front of the trainer. You also see Isabel in there. Both of those players had spectacular games.
Now, if you're Weinstein, how perfect of an ending is this? You switch over to wide receiver, and all year you only score 3 touchdowns, and then you catch 4 in this last game here in his senior year. Great performance by him, and he also got to play on the defensive side, making a couple tackles, able to play back on his original side of the ball, and just enjoy this last game of his senior year.
Definitely, you said it. He worked. You have to imagine he wanted to make a huge impact and make it quick. And boy, that's an understatement by saying he made an impact. He made more than an impact. He almost single-handedly scored as many points as Occidental. In fact, if it was just Ethan Weinstein and Ricky Batista versus Occidental, the score would have been Occidental 37, Chapman 28. That shows how spectacular Weinstein played in this game.
Yeah, Bautista and Weinstein combining for half of Chapman's points this game, and their offense was stellar this time. Like I said, taking advantage of that Occidental defense that's given up plenty of yards this year, and the Chapman defense able to hold them in check long enough for their team to accumulate a large lead.
Well, Allison Arthur, our sideline reporter, has who else? The man of the game, Ethan Weinstein, his final game at Chapman. Allison, what's going on in his mind right now?
Thanks, guys. I'm here with senior wide receiver Ethan Weinstein. Ethan, incredible game today. You yourself had 4 touchdowns in this game today. That 4th one, you got a flag thrown for maybe a little bit too much celebrating, but you had such a big lead. Was there a specific reason why you were so excited for that last touchdown?
It was a dream come true to play with the senior quarterback, number 2, Lucas. We've been practicing all off season and stuff, and finally that moment came, and man, that was the best.
Yeah, great. So this is your last game, so I know it's very emotional for you. What are you going to miss most about playing on this field and being with this team?
Oh, man. The boys, man, my family. It really is another family. And, with all the coaches and my teammates and, all the stuff we went through, I'm going to miss it all.
Well, thank you so much. I'm going to let you go so you can celebrate properly with your team. There you have it, guys. An incredible last game here for the Chapman Panthers. Reporting from Wilson Field, I'm Allison Arthur. Now back to you.
She mentioned that, Ethan Weinstein mentioned that his team is his family. And something that one of my friends once told me is that family is never left behind or forgotten. And without a doubt, Weinstein will not be forgotten after such a spectacular performance and such a spectacular teammate himself. Other players having great games as well. And he mentioned Lucas O'Connor. Yeah, you got to wonder, Weinstein, not a single excessive celebration. in his entire career, and we finally got the explanation as to why he did that. You have to imagine that that's pretty emotional for the both of them.
Yeah, big deal for them to connect on that in their final game of the season. You know, you got to celebrate that. I mean, as a former player myself, you just can't hold it in sometimes. You got to toss the ball over your shoulder. You got to do a dance sometimes. And Ethan Weinstein flagged that time, but, you know, it came at a good time, up 61-37.
61-37. Just an absolute showcase of what Chapman was capable of this entire season. Unable to really prove themselves for the most part, and not able to get into those top 4 spots, but above 500 and above average season. And you will take that anytime you can. We welcome you back. Michael Hofling with Tim Wolf, and just an emotional game all the way throughout, and a great game to watch. We always love to see close games, but as a Chapman fan, you love seeing them run up the score and really show off their skills.
Yeah, this game, boring for football fans, awesome for Chapman fans, able to finish out a tough opponent with a 61-point performance on offense. Like we've been saying all day, only averaging 19 points all year long on offense, but they're still able to put up 61 on Occidental.
That's the most points that they've scored in the past couple of years. In fact, since 2013, most points that they've scored in a single game. Why don't we take a look at how we got to this point in the game? A lot of big plays on both sides of the ball, Chapman and Occidental. More so Chapman. A lot of big plays from Weinstein, in fact, too.
Right on. So on this first play, we have Jacob Isabel taking a big pass down the field. He's not stalling like our camera feed did. He's off to the races. And Ethan Weinstein making a great block for him on Cordell Harris so that he can get into the end zone. Up next, we have Brian Scott throwing a pass to his receiver, Amici, his first of 2 on the day. And then we have, of course, Ethan Weinstein taking off. Cordell Harris can't make the tackle. Lost to Ethan Weinstein all day. And he finishes it with a beautiful track finish right there. Finish the 100 meters, boy. We got Ethan Weinstein again breaking another tackle, diving into the end zone for another touchdown. Cordell Harris missing another tackle. Ricky Bautista with a nice spin move. Throws it over to nobody else but Ethan Weinstein into the game for his second of the game, third of the game. And then we have, of course, Brian Scott again over, and then he's picked off, and it's taken down the field for another Chapman offensive possession. That was the story all day long. Chapman offense, offense, offense. And again, Ricky Bautista down the field to his receiver, puts the ball perfectly up in the air. And then we have another one on his dump-off route over to Pachotti, who gets into the end zone. We have Jacob Isabel here on a great punt return. Almost had a little bit of an injury scare there, but he was all right. Took it down, put his team up, set him up to score. And then we had Gittleman Egan catching a touchdown there for Occidental. And here is the play of the day. Ethan Weinstein catching a pass from the senior quarterback, and that game is over. Ethan Weinstein, an excessive celebration penalty on that one, but it's all good. It was 61-37 was the final. Chapman wins their final game of the season, putting them one game up from 500.
Well, how else can you excessively celebrate than doing a little bit of a dance after a 61-37 victory? Chapman wins 4-3 on the season in SCIAC play. Great final effort from Ethan Weinstein. All the seniors will surely be missed. You've been watching the Chapman Sports Broadcasting Network. For Tim Wolf, I'm Michael Hofling. Thanks for watching.